American TV series, starting to profit from young Sheldon. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 251 Development. It turns out that the Houston football team, which ranked first in the state league, did not pay attention to the dark horse team Melford. Even with the newspaper's promotion, the Houston football team, which was busy communicating with other state teams, still had no time to deal with Melford High School's invitational application. Fortunately, with its recent excellent performance and the power of the newspaper, Melford's next invitational was finally scheduled with the team ranked second in the state league last year, the Westlake High School football team. With the newspaper's continued hype for this invitational, the popularity of the two teams' invitational tournaments continued to rise. Time flies, and it's the weekend again, the day when the invitational tournament starts. On this day, in addition to the students of Westlake High School who came to watch the game, there were also many football enthusiasts from all over the world. When Melford entered the stadium, he was greeted by many people's attention and discussions. "We are really famous," feeling the audience's gaze. George showed a surprised expression on his face. Yes, with the photo of Mike and the players last week, it once again made the headlines of the state newspaper. The other players of the Melford team also entered the public's field of vision. Whether it was doubt, curiosity or contempt, the feeling of being noticed was generally good. Put your minds together. Westlake High School is very strong. Don't take it lightly. Unlike the players, who were in a daze, Coach George looked very serious. Obviously, the invitational tournament failed to invite Houston High School, which made George, the head coach, very angry. He urgently needed to prove himself. Melford could also beat any opponent that the Houston football team could beat. Coach George and everyone. We meet again when the Melford team finished assembling. Reporter Jack also rushed over with two of his men. It was not so important for the newspaper to invite any opponent that the Melford team invited. As long as the team could keep winning, the star-making plan and the poster distribution could proceed smoothly. According to the process, reporter Jack took a few close-up photos of Mike and his teammates on the scene. "Coach George, can you tell me what you think of the Houston football team?" After taking the photos, reporter Jack found head coach George different from the last time. After the formal cooperation, the newspaper specially organized a pre-match interview for the Melford team. After all, the star-making plan requires a lot of materials. Moreover, the questions prepared by Jack were also very clever. Pulling the Houston football team, which ranked first, would obviously create more hotspots for Melford. I have watched the broadcast of the Houston football team's game. They are undoubtedly a very strong team. Of course, in my heart, my players are no worse than them. Coach George, who had something in mind, appropriately expressed his ambition. Very good. Reporter Jack quickly recorded George's words. Then, after asking the other party a few more football-related questions, he turned his attention to today's protagonist, Mike. "What do you think of today's game? Are you confident that you can continue to win?" "Of course, although West Germany is a strong team, the victory will eventually belong to us," Melford Mike answered confidently. "Well said, I will support you. Come on in the game later." After collecting the information he wanted, reporter Jack did not disturb Mike and others. Later, under the attention of the away spectators, Coach George also arranged the players' pre-match warm-up. "This feeling is really good." Captain Aaron expressed his feelings during the warm-up. Who would have thought that Melford, a football team that was not outstanding, had completed its transformation in just one season? Strength, fame, everything is moving in a good direction. Seeing that the team is getting better and better, Aaron, the captain who is about to graduate and leave the team, still feels very happy. "Perform well in the game later. If there is a chance, I will cooperate with you," Mike whispered to Aaron. "You kid." Aaron also noticed that there were many scouts on the sidelines, and he also understood Mike's good intentions. It can only be said that the newspaper star-making plan has been very successful so far. While Mike's halo was added, his teammates around him also had the opportunity to show themselves. In this case, players like Aaron and Sam, who are still pretty good, have also entered the trial list of some college scouts during this period. It can be said that, although the Melford players were suppressed by Mike in every way, they were also lucky. Soon it was 10 o'clock in the morning, and the invitational tournament went smoothly. Coach George, who was holding back his anger, did not underestimate the enemy. To be on the safe side, he let the team use the dual core tactics in the first quarter. As the runner-up team in the league, the strength of Westdeek High School was naturally not bad. Even though Melford used the dual core tactics, Westdeek High School still had a slight advantage in the score at the end of the first quarter. So, before the start of the second quarter, Coach George used the star tactics in advance. When the second quarter came on the court, Captain Aaron specifically found Mike and whispered, "Mike, do your best. The victory of the game is more important." The reason why the Melford team was slightly suppressed in the first quarter was that Mike deliberately created opportunities for Aaron to perform. But in sports competitions, the victory of the team is obviously more important than the personal gains and losses of the players. A perfect version in a book and a forum. I know Mike nodded. He has strong confidence in his own strength and does not think he will play too much. However, it is better to lock in the victory early. So from the second quarter, Mike, who gradually exerted his strength, led his teammates to present a wonderful offensive performance to the audience. With a physique 5 times that of an ordinary person and professional level football skills, Mike, who is serious, can be described as unstoppable. Under Mike's leadership, the Melford team attacked one round after another, and SYNOPSIS High School gradually gave up struggling. The gap in strength was too big, and struggling seemed meaningless. Beep. As the whistle of the whole game sounded, the Melford players who won with a big score advantage hugged each other excitedly. On the sidelines, the foreign audience who witnessed the rise of a dark horse also gave Melford warm cheers. Coach George, who had also been suppressed for a long time, jumped up and hugged the assistant coach next to him at the moment when the team won. "Mike, as long as you agree to come to our university, not only will you be exempted from tuition, but you can also arrange a full sports scholarship. It's the same in our school." After a celebration, when Mike came to the sidelines surrounded by the players, a large number of scouts who still didn't give up surrounded him again. "Sorry, I said before that I have no intention of skipping a grade to go to college." Mike also politely expressed his thoughts again. Seeing that his attitude was still so firm, the scouts turned their attention to the other players of the Melford team while disappointed. This time, Captain Aaron and Sam and others really reaped the benefits of Mike. Of course, Mike's star-making plan and poster distribution have the possibility of going further because of this victory. Think about it, the Melford team, which defeated the runner-up team, can already be regarded as the uncrowned king. And Mike, who has outstanding personal strength and led the team to victory, will naturally be named a star player. Chapter 252 Leaving the team. After more than a month and 5 games, Melford's Spring Invitational this year came to a successful conclusion on the day of defeating SYNOPSIS High School. But Mike's star-making plan did not end there. With the victory over the runner-up team, the newspaper opened a small column for him in the sports section. With the continuous publicity and the subsequent poster distribution, Mike has become a well-known sports star in Texas. Moreover, when he got the first poster dividend, he also fulfilled his promise to his teammates and took everyone out for a good time. The current Melford team has secured its position as a strong team after its good performance in the Spring Invitational. The players have also been sought after on campus for this. Mike, who had the most eye-catching performance, has become the hero of Melford High School. For this reason, Principal Tom, on behalf of the school, specially held a commendation meeting for him. Time flies, and more than half a month has passed. During this time, Mike noticed that his level 4 professional football skills had not improved much during the practice with Melford players. Yes, bullying rookies every day will not improve professional football skills at all. Therefore, Mike, who was unwilling to waste time, prepared to apply to Coach George to leave the team today. On the same afternoon, Mike saw Captain Aaron on the playground, who had not been seen for a long time because he was out for a tryout. After the Spring Invitational Tournament, several scouts from local Texas universities saw his football potential. According to the contact with the university team, Aaron had been on leave for more than a week before the tryout. However, looking at the happy expression on his face, it is obvious that this tryout has a good result. "Hi, little George." Captain Aaron, dressed in casual clothes, smiled and greeted the players. Finally, he came to Mike and said, "Mike, I have something to discuss with you." "Go ahead," Mike replied. "I'm going to quit the team, so I want to pass the captain's position to you. I believe that with your leadership, the Melford rugby team will get better and better." When it comes to business, Aaron's expression is much more serious. It can be seen that he has a deep affection for the Melford rugby team. Now holding the captain's armband, he has a sense of entrusting his son to his father before his death. But, isn't it a coincidence that things happened at the same time? "Sorry, Aaron, I'm afraid I can't be the captain. In fact, I'm also preparing to apply to Coach George to leave the team today." Mike did not take the captain's armband as Aaron thought. At this time, Aaron also noticed that Mike was not wearing a training suit today. With his eyes flickering, he was silent for a long time before saying, "Forget it, let the coach worry about these problems." As the captain of the team, Aaron is very clear about Mike's strength. The opponent's superb football skills can completely help teammates quickly improve their skills. This is equivalent to unilateral poverty alleviation, of course, if the person concerned is unwilling to do so. Aaron, the former captain who is about to quit the team, can't say much. "How is your trial training?" Mike changed the topic to something lighter. "Luckily, I passed the test for Abilene University. But next, I need to consider how to pass the high school graduation exam." Aaron was both excited and distressed when talking about his future college plans. Abilene University is a top-ranked university in Texas. Even if you join this university as a sports student, you need to get a passing grade in the academic subjects. In one sentence, you need to have a high school diploma first. Captain Aaron, although not a simple-minded person with strong limbs, has a little difficulty in getting a high school diploma because he neglects academic studies. Of course, this difficulty is not too great. So, in order to have an extra insurance for the high school graduation exam, he is now here to withdraw from the team so that he has more time to study. "Aaron, you're back. How was the tryout?" Coach George, who came to the training ground before the outdoor exercise began, saw Aaron, who had returned at a glance. The tryout was very successful. Aaron first informed the coach of the good news, and then continued, "Coach, I want to quit the team and concentrate on preparing for the graduation exam later." "It's okay. Go ahead." Coach George took the captain's armband handed by Aaron, patted him on the shoulder affectionately, and encouraged him. "I hope to see you in the professional arena in the future." Many people in the team know that Aaron wants to become a professional player, and everyone also knows that he has been working hard in this direction. As for quitting the team, many 12th graders who are about to graduate have already quit the team in advance, which is not a big deal. After all, no matter what you want to do in the future, it is always a good thing to have a guaranteed high school diploma. "By the way, Mike, what's going on with you?" Coach George, who was holding the captain's armband, also noticed Mike next to Aaron. It was almost time for training, and Mike, who was not wearing protective equipment, was very conspicuous. "I feel that my football level has reached a bottleneck, so I want to apply to leave the team, to rest for a while," Mike answered tactfully. In high school, football was considered a specialty of Mike, so he didn't plan to quit the team completely. He had full confidence in his own ability, and he also thought about returning to the team to play when the team played in the official game. Although this approach was not fair to those ordinary players who worked hard, who could blame Mike for his willful ability? Check out the correct version in the 16-9 book forum. Coach George's face became tangled. He was about to hand over the captain's armband to Mike. However, he also expressed his understanding of Mike's situation. The world of geniuses is always different from that of ordinary people. After some thinking, Coach George said, "Your ability has reached the level of professional players. You don't have to rush to break through. It's okay to take a break for a while. When you want to return to the team, just tell me. I will keep the captain position." Coach George also saw the situation of the Spring Invitational. It can be said that after encountering a strong team, the whole team relied on Mike to support it. This kind of partiality model is actually very bad for the long-term development of the team in the future. After all, not every year there are players as strong as Mike to help the Melford team. So Coach George also thought that during the time when Mike was away, he would train the other players well. At least we should make sure that everyone can't hold Mike back in the summer league in the second half of this year. Mike, where are you going next? Aaron asked after walking out of the training ground. I'm going to the mathematical Olympiad study room, where someone is waiting for me. What about you? Mike replied. Teacher Sharon's mathematical Olympiad study group has not been disbanded, so Mike, who is a member of the mathematical Olympiad team, can naturally go there to kill time. And because there is still a long time before the end of year mathematical Olympiad competition, the mathematical Olympiad team has not organized a training camp. Therefore, it is very likely that only Mike and Katie, who was approved in advance, will be in the mathematical Olympiad study room today. Of course, Lina from the gymnastics team may also go there, if she is free. A small world for 3 people. It's wonderful to think about it. I'm going back to the classroom to study. Aaron didn't notice Mike's bad intentions. Okay, let's say goodbye here. Mike, who came to the teaching building, said goodbye to Aaron seriously. Okay, keep in touch. When you are free, Aaron, who is about to graduate, will have fewer and fewer opportunities to contact members of the rugby team in the future. Suddenly realizing this, he had a little sadness on his face. It can be said that the 2 people who left the team at the same time were in very different moods. After a while, the 2 went their separate ways in the teaching building. One went to the 12th grade classroom to study, and the other went to the Olympiad study room to meet the girl. Chapter 253 Phone. Mike, James asked me to inform you that the poster distribution fee has been transferred to you. Nearly 10,000 yuan. When you are free, you can go and confirm it. The voice of reporter Jack came from the phone. 10,000 yuan? Mike on the other end of the phone was silent for a moment and said, okay, I see. Now it is the beginning of May, and more than a month has passed since the end of the spring invitational. Mike has also received 3 dividends from the poster distribution from the newspaper, and this time, 10,000 yuan is much less than the previous 2 amounts. Obviously, after such a long time, Mike's poster dividend period is almost over. However, Mike, who has received more than 40,000 and nearly 50,000 yuan from the newspaper, is already very satisfied. This is much better than his previous estimated income. He can get so much money without doing anything, just taking a few sets of photos. There is no business that is more worry-free than this. And don't forget that Mike's economic focus is on the stock market. He lacks original funds, and with this money as leverage, he will only make more money in the stock market in the future. By the way, Mike, have you read this morning's newspaper? Jack asked on the other end of the phone. Of course, I seem to be on the front page of the newspaper again. Mike replied. More than a month later, Mike was on the front page of the state newspaper again. Moreover, this time he was given a large space, as if he had made a systematic summary of his football career. In fact, the newspaper is going to do the last wave of publicity for you. After next week, the star-making plan is probably going to end. Jack revealed the newspaper's plan. Then, he complained dissatisfiedly, James is really stingy. Obviously, the newspaper has made a lot of money this time, but he only gave a little to our employees. The poster distribution plan is to make extra money. If reporter Jack was just an ordinary employee, he would be very happy to get some extra money. However, this was originally his personal opportunity to make money, but now he saw that manager James took the lion's share. Although he was mentally prepared, it still made people feel very unbalanced to see a lot of cash falling into the manager's pocket. Therefore, reporter Jack became more and more angry as he spoke. Okay, Jack. Anything else? I'm just about to have dinner. Mike interrupted the other party's negative emotional release. To be honest, after getting the dividends he deserved, Mike was not very interested in the newspaper's affairs. Besides, everyone in the Cooper's restaurant was still waiting for him to have dinner. Oh, okay. I do have good news to share with you. Reporter Jack seemed to realize that he had interrupted Mike's private time. So he quickly said, someone from the TV department has contacted me. In view of my recent performance, they are willing to let me continue to be the team leader. As my friend, I must share this good news with you as soon as possible. Jack, whose career can be regarded as full of twists and turns, was able to return to the TV department so smoothly this time, and the implementation of the star-making plan played a big role. Therefore, he was grateful to Mike for his success again. Congratulations, Jack, you finally succeeded. Hearing the other party's cheerful tone, Mike immediately sent his blessings. Thank you, Jack, who had shared the good news, said, okay, I won't disturb your dinner time. We'll talk again when we have time. Okay, bye. Mike hung up the phone. The Cooper family's food quality has been greatly improved since George became the head coach of the team again. At this moment, a very rich meal was placed on the table. However, facing this table of delicious dinner, the Cooper family and Peggy and others did not start using their knives and forks. Obviously, they were waiting for everyone to come together. Mike, are you done talking about it? Seeing Mike come back, Grandma Connie asked with a smile. Yes, Mike responded with a smile, then went to the table and sat down, and asked curiously, what happened to the two of them? The expressions of the other people at the table were very harmonious. Only Missy and little George were staring at each other, as if they had just quarreled. This matter has something to do with you. The prayer before the meal was about to begin, and Grandma Connie kept it a secret and said, you will know it naturally in a while. Then, everyone held hands, and closed their eyes, and Mary, a Christian, led the prayer. Thank God for giving us food. Amen. Okay, everyone can start. After the prayer before dinner, Mary smiled and announced the start of dinner. Mike, what do you think of Tiger as your title? As the meal began, Missy asked. No, I think the title of Lion is better. Little George said tit for tat. Mike is the Lion King, and the rest of us are little lions. Well, as the final chapter of the star-making plan, this time the newspaper not only promoted Mike, but also cleverly solicited Mike's title from the public. This move is bound to make the public more involved. Missy and George quarreled over this matter. Tiger is the king of the forest and the most powerful animal in the world. Missy tried to convince George. No, lion is the most powerful animal, George retorted. A perfect version in 1619 book bar. Tiger is the most powerful. Lion is the most powerful. The two children refused to give in and wanted to convince each other. However, they lacked professional knowledge and just said these two sentences back and forth. At the table, Mary listened to the children's quarrel, shook her head helplessly, and lowered her head to enjoy dinner. Now she is living a happy life, and she doesn't want to get angry at the table because of the children. Grandma Connie and George looked like they were watching the show with interest. As for the little girl Peggy, she didn't seem to be interested in the topic of titles, and was now intimately delivering food to Mike's plate. Little Sheldon, who had been silent for a long time, finally couldn't listen anymore. He said seriously, as far as I know, the desert army ants distributed in the Arizona basin are the most powerful population on the earth today. No animal is their opponent. Shut up. X to the weak ants are obviously not powerful in the eyes of ordinary people. Missy and George, who were angry, listened to the tone of Sheldon's preaching and pointed their spearheads at the annoying Sheldon at the same time. Hearing the scolding, Sheldon was startled at first. Then he realized that he was at home with his parents and his life safety would not be threatened. So, he boldly continued to popularize science. In terms of individual ability, ants can lift objects that are dozens or even hundreds of times their own weight. So the seemingly powerful tigers and lions are not the opponents of ants. After saying that, he looked at Missy and George with contempt. Mike, which do you think is more powerful, tigers, lions or ants? Missy, who was very angry at Sheldon's speech, but couldn't find a point of rebuttal, sought help off the court. At this time, Mike's phone rang again. Sorry. Mike stood up, motioned to everyone, and was about to answer the phone. However, seeing Mrs. expectant eyes, he said before leaving, you should be discussing my title. But why do you have to choose from animals? To be honest, Mike was not very satisfied with tigers, lions, ants and so on as his titles. After throwing out the question, he went to the living room to answer the phone. Mike, it's me, Scene. Do you remember? Scene's voice came from the phone. Of course, Scene. What's the matter? Mike was very impressed with his little black fan. Nothing else. I just want to ask, why haven't you called my sister for such a long time? The smart little scene was worried about his sister's lifelong happiness. However, he may not realize that with Collins's beauty and ability, she doesn't need others to worry about her life. Obviously, Scene's concern is a bit redundant. Chapter 254 Phone Call, continued. Oh, I've been busy lately and forgot. I'll call Collins when I'm free. Faced with Scene's questioning, Mike made up an excuse. Although Collins is very beautiful, St. Mary's district is still too far away from Telford city. Besides, Mike is not short of girls, so there is no need to bother to go far away. I also heard about your school's spring invitational competition. You actually defeated last year's runner-up team. It's incredible. Scene didn't realize that Mike was perfunctory. He continued in a familiar way. By the way, I haven't congratulated you for becoming a celebrity in Texas. I've seen your newspaper columns and posters. I'll tell you secretly that Collins has collected a lot of your posters and newspaper information. She is definitely fascinated by you. Besides, my parents also know that she likes you. Judging from their attitude, you have a good chance of winning my sister. Not long after, the little devil Scene sold out his sister. It seemed that, as long as Mike nodded, he could get a beautiful girlfriend immediately. Little Scene, who are you talking to on the phone? Just when Little Scene was trying to match up his sister and Mike heard a girl's voice in the receiver. Obviously, Little Scene was caught by the person involved in arranging her life's major event behind his sister's back. Oh no, Collins is here. You talk to her. Any sister is a devil in the eyes of her brother, not to mention that what Little Scene is doing now is not glorious. After a while of chaos, Collins' voice came from Mike's phone. Hello, is this Mike? Little Scene didn't say anything strange to you just now, did he? No, Little Scene just chatted with me for a few words. Mike kindly covered for Little Scene. He heard on the phone just now that Collins was not so gentle when facing his brother. That's good. Collins was silent for a moment after speaking, as if he had put down a big stone in his heart. Then, she continued, congratulations on your team's good results in the spring invitational tournament. I saw it in the newspaper. Many people in school are also talking about you. Mike's image and his story are now very popular among teenagers. Thank you, Mike responded politely. By the way, do you still remember Big Michael? Collins took the initiative to lead the topic on the phone. Compared with the shyness when they met last time, she seemed to be much more talkative on the phone. Of course, the core player of the St. Mary's team. I have a deep impression of him, Mike said truthfully. In fact, Big Michael is a child adopted by my parents. He is my brother. He is very talented in football and has just passed the team tryout of the University of Mississippi. Collins deliberately looked for common topics. Big Michael was noticed by the Mississippi football team, and there was also some credit from Mike. The implementation of the star-making plan has made many scouts from other states set their sights on Texas colleges and universities. Among them, although the performance of the St. Mary's High School team this year is not very good, high school students with extraordinary talents like Big Michael are indeed too outstanding to be noticed at a glance. So, like Captain Aaron, Big Michael was also valued by several top universities. Big Michael, who knows how to be grateful, also chose the University of Mississippi. It was because the University of Mississippi was the alma mater of Scene and his wife who adopted him. Big Michael is now worried about his high school graduation exam. For this reason, my parents hired a tutor for him. Collins shared his brother's embarrassing stories like an old friend chatting with him. Unlike Aaron, Big Michael, who wandered around like an orphan before, had an unfortunate childhood. Without normal communication, he developed a shy and withdrawn personality. As a result, Big Michael's learning ability is similar to that of an 11 or 12-year-old child. Combined with his tall and strong body, it is not wrong to say that he has strong limbs and a simple mind. Therefore, in order to get a pass to the University of Mississippi high school diploma, Big Michael's life will definitely not be easy now. In this regard, Mike could only mourn for the big scumbag for 2 seconds in his heart. Next, Collins, who had taken the initiative in the topic, talked a lot about her family. Without the pressure of face-to-face communication, the girl seemed to have endless things to say to Mike on the phone. She looked like a little fan. "Collins, it's a pleasure to chat with you. Let's chat again next time when we are free, okay?" Mike found an opportunity and deliberately ended the call. Although he didn't dislike chatting with Collins, it was not the time for a long chat. After all, the dinner time at the Cooper's house was probably almost over. "Sorry, I seem to have said a lot." Collins, who was uncharacteristically, also realized that he was too anxious this time. "By the way, do you have a number on the chat website? We can contact each other online." It was just a rare opportunity, so before hanging up the phone, the girl chose to take the initiative again. Facebook had not been established at this time, but with the popularization of computers, online dating has become very popular. Mike also told the girl his chat window before hanging up the phone. "Mike, you are such a busy man. Come sit down and have dinner." Seeing Mike calling back, Grandma Connie smiled and joked. Everyone at the table had basically finished their main meal and was leisurely enjoying their desserts. Check out the correct version on 1619 Book Bar. Mike, who was eating his main meal at the table, noticed that the atmosphere between the three Cooper children was much more harmonious than before. "This situation is very abnormal. Have they reached a consensus?" Mike asked Peggy beside him in a low voice. "Yes, we have decided that your title will be Tornado. I will write to the newspaper later," Peggy explained with a smile. The title Tornado was thought up by Peggy. The tornado that destroys everything is very consistent with Mike's playing style on the football field. Therefore, when Peggy proposed this title, she also successfully convinced the other three children. "Tornado? Very good suggestion. Did you come up with this?" Mike asked curiously when he saw the slightly smug look on Peggy's face. Peggy smiled and nodded. It turns out that Peggy's tsundere attribute is no less than that of little Sheldon. Especially this kind of thing, which involves Mike. Without the initial conflict, the atmosphere at the table became much warmer. "Mike, if I remember correctly, your 16th birthday is coming soon. How are you going to celebrate it?" Grandma Connie, who was drinking beer, suddenly asked. "The 16th birthday is considered adulthood here. Generally, families with the conditions will give their children a grand adulthood ceremony on this day. Mike's birthday is in mid-May, which is not a few days away. Why don't we go to a restaurant outside and book a private room to celebrate?" Mike, who is no longer short of money, suggested. For him, the actual meaning of adulthood is more important than the ceremony. Therefore, the process of adulthood is not necessary to be so troublesome. Such an important birthday, it's not okay to celebrate it outside. Grandma Connie smiled and said, "Why don't we hold a bonfire party and Grandma will make you a modified version of special barbecue." Connie is right. It's more atmospheric to celebrate it at home. "I can also help prepare food on that day," Mary promised. It can be felt that she has regarded Mike as a family member. The others also looked at Mike, waiting for his decision. A bonfire party is too exaggerated. Why not hold an outdoor barbecue party? Mike chose a compromise. Anyway, there are 2 barbecue masters at home, so it can be regarded as using local materials. Chapter 255 Coming of Age Ceremony. It was May 13th, Friday, Mike's birthday. In the afternoon, when he was leaving school with Katie, Lena and Peggy, there was a commotion at the gate and students exclaimed, "It's Regina," and the others. Katie was surprised when she saw the main characters causing the chaos at the school gate. She and the 3 girls of the Devil Body group were acquainted. After not seeing them for half a year, Katie was moved to see the 3 girls who were becoming more and more dazzling. "Hi, Mike." Regina smiled and waved when she saw Mike and the others coming. After a while, the 3 girls of the Devil Body group seemed to have more charming temperament. When they stood there, they were the focus of the crowd. It can be said that the 3 of them made the right choice to sign with the Miracle Company. They really have the potential to become big stars. "Why are you back?" Looking at the 3 beautiful girls in front of him, Mike was also a little surprised. As far as he knew, the Devil Body group was busy making their first album recently and was preparing to make their official debut this summer. According to the situation, now should be their busiest time. Surprise! Regina spread her arms and asked with a smile, "How is it, surprise?" It's really a surprise, Mike replied with a smile. It is indeed a surprise to see the three girls of the devil figure group on this day. I said he would definitely like it. Regina had a smug look on her face. It seems that the three girls may have made a bet before. It must be said that Regina, the queen bee, has a very accurate understanding of Mike's mind. By the way, we have another surprise for you. Regina directed Gretchen and Karen beside her to embrace Mike and walk out of the campus. Only a group of envious students were left at the scene. Ding, ding, ding ding. How about this year's latest sports car? Do you like it? Regina took Mike to a red sports car with fireworks and ribbons and asked like offering a treasure. This year's spring Ferrari sports car costs about 100,000 yuan. In an era when you can buy a good car for 5,000 yuan, this sports car can be regarded as a high-end product. This gift is too expensive. I can't accept it. Mike's stock market value can afford a sports car of this level. However, this birthday gift is still too exaggerated for a high school student. It's okay, Mike. This is our intention. Regina explained. The money to buy this car is from the wages of the three of us during this period. This is a kind of gratitude. The three girls of the Devil Body group were valued by the Miracle Company because of Mike's Christmas song last year. In addition, the relationship between the three girls and Mike made them willing to pay for Mike. The three girls' families were not short of money, and now they are about to become stars. They are even more so. Moreover, they have saved so much money before their debut, which also indirectly shows that the Miracle Company values the three girls. This is a good thing. In an instant, Mike also experienced the happiness of a rich woman. How about it? Do you want to try your new car? Regina took out the Ferrari car key, shook it in her hand twice, and put it on Karen's big waves beside her. Karen, with an angelic face, came to Mike with the key in her hand. In the back, Regina, who had ordered this move, raised her eyebrows and flirted. It was still the same flavor. Queen Bee is very accurate in judging people. Luxury cars, beautiful women, which man can resist such temptation? Mike, I'm going home first. Peggy wisely chose to avoid such a scene that was not suitable for children. We're leaving first. See you at the party tonight. Katie also tacitly pulled Lina away, leaving the scene to Mike and the three girls of the Devil Figure group. Now Mike doesn't have to worry about it, and he starts the test drive. The headlights are very white. The chassis shock absorption is also very good. More than an hour later, Mike, who had finished the preliminary test drive, returned to Cooper's house with the three girls. At this time, in the small yard of Cooper's house, many people were busy preparing birthday parties. Barbecue, snacks, champagne, and drinks were brought to the temporary dining table. Mike, is this your new car? Little George, who was lazily fiddling with the drinks, came over excitedly after seeing the red Ferrari. A perfect version at 16,191 book and 1 bar. Sure enough, no one can resist the temptation of a sports car. Mike, come and try Grandma's special barbecue. Grandma Connie, who was making barbecue in the yard, looked at the three girls of the Devil Figure group who were dressed up beside Mike and greeted them specially. This is the top quality beef that Lee brought from home. Obviously, compared with the three girls of the Devil Figure group who were ostentatious, Grandma liked Lina, a small town girl, from the bottom of her heart. Well, the quality of beef is really good. The barbecue skills are also great. Mike, who tasted a small piece of special barbecue, praised Grandma Connie and Lina. After making Grandma Connie happy, Mike greeted the other people who came to the party today. Originally, according to Mike's idea, today's birthday was just a family party. However, Grandma Connie, who loves the excitement, still called Professor John and Brenda and her son next door. On Mary's side, she called Pastor Jeff and his wife. With the three girls of the Devil Figure who came back unexpectedly, the family gathering turned into a lively large party. One table for children, one table for ladies, one table for men. The lively party lasted from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Pastor Jeff, who had had 2 drinks with George, was already excitedly preaching the Bible on the spot. Little George, don't you have any thoughts when you see the scene over there with Mike? Grandma Connie came to little George, who was secretly drinking beer when his father was not paying attention. I wish I had a face as handsome as Mike. Looking at Mike surrounded by several beautiful girls, little George envied him and did not forget to secretly drink a sip of beer. Don't you have anything else to say? Seeing the other party's disappointing appearance, Grandma Connie continued to ask unhappily. The Cooper family actually has good genes. In the past 6 months, little George has gradually opened up. The strong body from years of exercise, coupled with the increasingly mature face shape, gives him a masculine charm. What should I say? Unlike his increasingly mature appearance, little George is obviously still a child who has not grown up in his heart. Grandma Connie originally wanted to use Mike's example to inspire little George's fighting spirit in some aspects. However, seeing the other party's disappointing look, Grandma Connie shook her head and said nothing more. Sure enough, it is not so easy for a boy to become a man. The time came to 12 o'clock, and as Mike cut the birthday cake and made a birthday wish, the lively party came to an end. Mike, the house is yours this weekend. Come on. When the party was over, Grandma Connie quietly stuffed a stack of small umbrellas for Mike, and then took Professor John to a world of two. Mike, on his side, also knew it well, so he took Regina and the other 2 girls, as well as Katie and Lina, back to experience the 5-part love. Magical hands, eternal grasp, crazy growth, deadly rhythm, war rhythm, phase dive, perfect curtain call with the calm and relaxed old tricks again. With many buffs, Mike is destined to be crowned the king of Water Night. Chapter 256, The Future. When the first ray of sunlight shone through the window, Mike slowly opened his eyes, pulled away the arm that was on him, and got up first. The madness of last night made the room a mess. The girls who had worked so hard were still sleeping soundly. Without disturbing others, Mike simply washed up and made a loving breakfast. Milk and juice are a must. The girls really need to replenish water. A few simple and easy to make delicious sandwiches. To ensure balanced nutrition, Mike prepared to fry a few heart-shaped eggs and put them in the sandwiches. Just as Mike was frying eggs, Regina smelled the fragrance and came to the kitchen door. Compared with the other girls, the physical fitness of the queen bee is obviously better. At this time, she leaned against the doorframe like a newlywed wife, staring at the busy figures in the kitchen in a trance. In the morning light, the girl dressed in a large-size t-shirt and dressed at home has a more gentle feeling. It is completely different from the arrogant queen bee in the past. What's wrong? Regina. Mike, who was preparing breakfast, found the girl at the door, staring at him for a long time. Mike, you are super attractive now. Regina smiled, came behind Mike like a young couple, and was about to give him a good morning kiss. It is said that men who can cook are very attractive, and men who are both handsome and good at cooking are even more attractive. Mike now is like this. Wait, haven't you brushed your teeth yet? Mike avoided the girl's good morning kiss. Even if you are a fairy, you can't not brush your teeth in the morning. TSK. Seeing Mike's disgusted look, Regina also snorted in dissatisfaction and then loosened her hands around him. However, she pretended to go wash up, and when the man was not paying attention, she turned around and kissed him hard on the face. It was like punishing the man for his lack of understanding of romance. Facts have proved that no one can refuse the kindness of the queen bee. She succeeded in her plan and saw Mike wiping the saliva on his face and then left the kitchen with satisfaction. Later, when breakfast was ready, the girls woke up and washed up. Because they didn't prepare any clothes, the girls were wearing men's shirts that were one size larger. The same shirts were worn in different styles. It was a beautiful sight. After breakfast was served, everyone sat on the sofa in the living room. Okay, let's eat. Mike took the initiative to greet everyone. Although breakfast was not rich, it was enough to replenish the girls' previous consumption. Is there something on my face? After everyone started eating, Mike turned his head and looked at Regina, who was staring at him again instead of eating. No. Regina shook her head and then glanced at Mike's lower body with a vague look and said mysteriously, I just found that you are getting more and more powerful now. Drive away without saying a word. Eat your breakfast well. Mike glared at the girl. Whether it is powerful or not, Mike himself will not know. With the blessing of the moonlight characteristic, plus the increase in the skill level of Holy Spear. Apart from other things, Mike is definitely gifted in sports. These leisurely days are really nostalgic then. After drinking the milk in front of her, Regina lay on the sofa and stretched her body wantonly. At this time, the Meguro music industry is booming, and various superstars emerge in an endless stream, which can be described as a battle between gods. In order to stand out in this situation, the three girls of the Devil Body group will obviously not have an easy time in the 6 months of preparing for their debut. What arrangements does the company have for you? Given the relationship, Mike is more concerned about the development of the three girls of the Devil Body group. When talking about this topic, Katie, who almost debuted with them, and Lina, who was curious about the outside world, all put down their food and pricked up their ears. The company has prepared several popular electronic music songs for our group and dances. Everyone here is one of us, and Regina also talked about the company's arrangements openly. This style is not right. Is the Miracle Company going to make you into a Vase group? Gradually, Mike heard something wrong. Judging from the route planned by the Miracle Company, the Devil Body group will become a hot girl group. The kind of group that doesn't pay attention to the quality of songs and makes a lot of money by singing and dancing. There's nothing we can do about it. We are not famous yet, and the top songwriters won't work with us at all. Regina also realized the shortcomings of the group, but she couldn't do anything about this situation. After all, good songs are hard to come by. Let me think about it. Mike started to think. Vase is not a good adjective, especially for girls. And apart from external factors, the three girls in the Devil Body group can be considered girls from small towns. Small town. Countryside. This situation is inexplicably suitable for country music. Country music? Taylor Swift. Very good, it's you. I'll write a few songs for you, and then you can go to the company to discuss the new development route of the group. Mike, who had made up his mind, said. A correct version of the book in 1619. You want to write songs for us? That's great, Regina exclaimed, throwing herself on Mike. What singing stars lack most is definitely good songs. And everyone has seen Mike's songwriting ability last Christmas. So, Mike, who had the memory palace technique, soon wrote several new songs under the witness of several girls. Romeo and Juliet? Very interesting songs. The three girls of the Devil Body group gathered in front of Mike and looked at the musical notes on the manuscript paper. After half a year of music theory training, although the three girls still can't compose songs, they have also acquired basic aesthetic ability. Songs with a fresh style look very good. Gretchen expressed her opinion. With a softer personality, she originally wanted to be a pure singing star and was not interested in becoming a member of the Spice Girls. Now, Mike has given her the possibility to realize her dream. Mike, I knew you were the best. After reading the composition, Regina expressed her gratitude in a more direct way and entangled with Mike again. Unlike Gretchen, Queen Bee seemed to feel Mike's deep love from the style of the song. As for Karen with big waves, she didn't see anything. With an angelic face, she just obeyed her original intention and followed Regina to attack Mike. Adolescent boys and girls only need a little spark. The battle started quickly and soon spread to the entire front. You seem to be worried. During the break, Mike found Katie. The girl seemed a little absent-minded in the previous battle. I don't know. Katie looked tangled. Tell me, what's going on? Mike asked. My parents, they want me to take over the work of animal observation and research after graduating from high school. Katie explained with confusion. She has been educated at home since she was a child, and she has been wavering between going to university to continue her studies and joining her parents' studio. She has some mathematical talent, but she is not very outstanding in this aspect and is far behind those top mathematicians. Moreover, the girl gradually discovered that she didn't like mathematics that much. However, she was a little resistant to going back to Africa with her parents to study animals. She has enjoyed a comfortable life, and she is not sure if she can still bear the hardship. Now, Katie is a little envious of Regina and the other two. At least, their goal of becoming a star is very clear. Just follow your heart. No matter what decision you make, I support you. Seeing the girl's confusion, Mike encouraged her. Mike, who firmly believed that he had a bright future, had the confidence to take responsibility for the girl's choice. Of course, the premise is that the other party really needs it. I know, I will seriously consider it. Katie, who received Mike's caring encouragement, seemed to be in a much better mood. Hey, what are you whispering about? Regina, who had recovered, came over curiously. But she had a playful face, and her motives were obviously not pure. The battle was about to break out again. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 257 Farewell. Happy time passed in a flash, and it was Sunday afternoon. Mike, you can come to Apple City to visit us this summer. I will reimburse you for your round trip expenses. As they were about to part, Regina, who was not short of money, hugged Mike and invited him to spend the summer vacation. Seeing her moisturized appearance now, it was obvious that she was very satisfied with Mike's efforts in the past 2 days. The 3 girls of the Devil Body group, who had applied for leave of absence, did not plan to take the graduation exam in more than a month. They were busy making their first album, and they took the time to come back this time, just to give Mike a birthday surprise. The 3 girls who had signed with a big company like Miracle did not care much about the high school diploma now. Even after the Devil Body group became famous, Melford High School might have to rush to send the 3 girls graduation certificates. After all, it is very common to find celebrities to become honorary alumni to expand the popularity of the school. Mike, thank you for the song you wrote for us. I like it very much. Gretchen, the queen bee, also gave Mike a farewell hug. She was more thoughtful and knew the value of those new songs very well. They are bound to make the girls' road to stardom smoother. It can be predicted that Love Story, a fresh song full of girlish fantasies, will become the famous song of the Devil Body group, as long as it is successfully released. Mike, I will miss you. Karen, who was at the end of the big wave, also came forward to give a hug, with a sentimental look. Unlike the queen bee, Karen, who has no ambition to become famous, joined the Miracle Company, and was coerced by her bestie. She has no independent consciousness, and is a little uncomfortable with the company's high-intensity training. Now, Mike has helped the Devil Body group to replan the album style. If it succeeds, the 3 girls will have to work harder in the future. This situation is also one of the main reasons why Karen is unhappy. Keep in touch when you are free. I will miss you too. After Mike comforted Karen, he waved goodbye to the 3 girls and watched them get on the special car and leave. Mike, I should go home too, otherwise my parents will be worried. After the 3 girls of the Devil Body group walked away, Lena also said goodbye. With a strict family education, she was able to go out and have fun for 2 consecutive nights, which was already her limit. Mike, I should go back too. See you at school on Monday. Katie, who was in a confused stage, was in urgent need of going home to discuss her post-graduation plan with her parents. After all, the 12th grade graduation exam was not long away, and the girl had to think about what she wanted to do as soon as possible. Mike, who sent the 2 girls away again, turned around and looked at the empty and messy room, picked up a rag, and dealt with the aftermath. I wonder how Peggy is doing. She should be able to take care of herself more than an hour later. Mike, who had cleaned the room, was ready to go to the Cooper family. He was busy having a tryst with the 5 girls before, and deliberately ignored Peggy. However, the Cooper family was not an outsider, and they should help take care of Peggy. Little George, did you know that you grind your teeth, snore, and fart at night? From a scientific explanation, this is a disease. I suggest you go to the hospital for a checkup. At the Cooper family, little Sheldon was expressing his dissatisfaction. Because of Peggy's stay this weekend, Sheldon was driven to live with George. I haven't told you yet who turns off the lights so early at night. This is also a disease. You should go to the doctor. George also stared at Sheldon with disdain. The 2 brothers seemed to be born incompatible. Before going to bed every night, George would listen to rock music for a long time with a tape recorder. This is one of his few hobbies. However, Sheldon, who is overly sensitive, has the habit of going to bed early and can't stand any noise when resting. The difference in living habits made the two brothers quarrel for 2 days after living together. "Dad, when can I go back to my room? I don't want to live with George. It will drive me crazy." Sheldon asked his father for help. "I don't know." George thought for a while and said, "But Mike should be almost done with his work." Just then, Mike came to Cooper's house. "Mike, you are here. I want to ask, are they all gone?" Seeing Mike coming, Sheldon was a little excited and incoherent. It's not his fault. After all, only those who know where to rest know how tormenting it is to leave their own nest. "Yes, Regina and the others are gone," Mike answered truthfully. "Great. I can finally go back to my room hearing the good news." Little Sheldon cheered around the living room. How much stimulation he had, however, it was not surprising that little Sheldon behaved so strangely. After all, the brain circuits of geniuses are always difficult to understand. After shaking his head, Mike greeted the others in the living room. It was almost dinner time. Mary was preparing food in the kitchen, while the others were obviously waiting for dinner. Among them, Mike saw Grandma Connie, who had returned from a date. "Grandma Connie, when did you come back?" Mike asked. A perfect version of the book in 1619. He seemed a little embarrassed for occupying the house for 2 days in a row. "I just came back at noon." Grandma Connie was glad that she stayed at Professor John's place for one more day. If she had come back yesterday, she would probably have no place to live. Then, Grandma Connie seemed to have thought of something and smiled and teased. 2 whole days. "Mike, you are better than I thought." The look of exploring gossip made it easy to think that she would ask Mike about his feelings next. In order to avoid this embarrassment, Mike changed the subject first, looked at Peggy and asked, "Peggy, how have you been these 2 days?" "I'm fine, thank you for your concern," Peggy answered with a little dissatisfaction in her pride. However, looking at the way she and Missy were together, they should have been doing well these 2 days. After all, it is easy for girls of this age to play together. Of course, Mike, who felt the resentment of the little girl, wisely stopped teasing her after hitting a soft nail. Then everyone tacitly did not mention Mike and the girls again, and the atmosphere on the scene became strangely quiet for a while. "Mike, you are here. It's time for dinner." At this time, Mary, who had prepared dinner, poked her head out of the kitchen and helped Mike relieve the embarrassment. With the arrival of summer, the weather is getting hotter. In the irritable atmosphere, time flashed to the end of June, when students were taking final exams. In the steaming classroom, with the end of 2 days of cultural exams, the 12th graders ushered in their graduation season. "Mike, I'm ready to accept my parents' arrangement. After that, I will go to Africa with them to study wild animals." Katie, who had just finished taking high school graduation photos, found Mike. Katie's parents originally came to the town of Telford with her in order to let their daughter experience the wonderful life of high school. Now that Katie has exceeded the plan, her parents naturally have to close the laboratory here and continue to go back to Africa to study animals on the spot. However, it is hot now, and going to the harsh conditions in the wild of Africa will obviously be a lot of hardship. "Is there anything I can help you with?" Mike asked. "Walk with me on campus." Katie, who has made up her mind, has a sense of freedom. Summer, sunshine, campus. With spots of light falling, a pair of boys and girls slowly walked on the shady path next to the playground. Chapter 258 University Notification Letter. Katie, who had no intention of going to college, followed her parents to Africa 2 days after the college entrance examination. Mike, on the other hand, changed his summer plans because of a phone call from Dennis. After a year of investigation, the welfare agency in Minnesota decided to release Mike's inheritance rights. Mike's parents will stated that Mike could inherit all the assets when he came of age. The definition of adulthood was very vague. The law stipulates that one can only reach adulthood at the age of 18, but from the perspective of the family's coming of age ceremony, people over the age of 16 are also considered adults. Therefore, Mike's will has a lot of room for maneuver. Mike's performance this year also made the welfare agency in Minnesota see his future potential. For the purpose of making friends, the welfare agency decided to do a favor and let Mike get his assets in advance after many discussions. It just so happened that Mike who was preparing to make a fuss in the stock market at this stage, was very short of original funds. So, after hearing the good news, he decided to go back immediately. As far as Mike knows, his family's small estate has about $80,000 in funds every year. After years of accumulation, there should be at least millions of dollars in liquid funds available in the family account. With these funds injected, as long as you take advantage of the booming food industry and internet industry, you can make a fortune in the stock market. It can be said that the current economic boom is the easiest time for Americans to make money. The real industry, the internet industry, etc. are all good choices. If everything goes well, even in the future virtual currency industry, Mike has the confidence to make a move. Never underestimate the power of capital. In this case, Mike's main task this summer vacation is to go home and take over the assets. Therefore, he has been preparing for this matter in the past 2 days. Although the red Ferrari sports car is cool to drive, it is not suitable for long distance travel. Considering practicality, Mike is asking George to help ask if there are any suitable second-hand cars nearby. It is better to choose a pickup truck or SUV for long distance travel. Mike, there is another letter for you. Peggy came in with a stack of envelopes and put a few notices in front of Mike. At this time, Mike was at Connor's grandmother's house, waiting for news from George. Looking at the letter in front of him, he simply flipped through it and said with interest, "The admission letter from Columbia University is really surprising. Now it has been a while since the high school graduation exam. Various universities have also been sending admission letters to their favorite students one after another. Mike has received many university letters before, but most of them are local universities in Texas that he has never given up, or some other second and third rate schools in other places. This time, the admission letter from Columbia University really surprised him a little. After all, it is a top-notch university. It's no big deal. Columbia University also sent me an admission letter." Seeing Mike's surprised reaction, Peggy stated the facts with a little pride. Of course, it is very likely that the little girl's competitive spirit is at work when she said this. After all, the two had decided before that they would not skip grades to go to college. Therefore, whether it is a notice from Columbia University or not, it actually has little impact on the two. However, Sheldon, who was checking aerospace information in the computer room at this time, was a little restless when listening to the conversation between the two in the living room. "Columbia University letter? Let me see." Little Sheldon walked quickly to the living room, picked up the letter in front of Mike, and read it carefully. That was Columbia University, one of the top universities in the United States. "It's real." Little Sheldon, who verified the authenticity of the letter, said, "Why don't I have one?" He has always been good at studying. This time he came to Connor's grandma's house to use the computer. He was originally going to look for aerospace information and prepare for joining Professor John's research team later. Unexpectedly, he was hit by Mike and the others. You know, little Sheldon, who had already self-studied high school knowledge, has been looking forward to going to college to absorb new nutrients. It's just a pity that he didn't receive any university letter this year. No, there must be something wrong. I want to go back and see. Little Sheldon, who was deeply shocked, immediately realized that something was wrong. Mike and the others both received university letters of consent. Little Sheldon, who thought he was no worse than Mike and the others, didn't think he couldn't even receive a letter of consent. Thinking of this, he hurriedly left Connor's grandma's house. What stimulated him? Peggy, who noticed that little Sheldon looked very bad when he left, asked in confusion. Who knows? Maybe he just has a stomachache. Mike shook his head and did not continue the topic. In fact, he knew in his heart that Sheldon should go back to check his admission letter. The genius brain and the arrogant personality make it difficult for the other party to accept failure. Although Mike and the others who received the college admission letter did not mean to mock Sheldon, it still made the latter feel frustrated. By the way, when are you going to leave? Seeing that Mike was unwilling to say more about the admission letter, Peggy immediately changed the subject. The little girl knew a little about Mike's return to Minnesota. A perfect version of the book in 1619. I'll leave after I buy a suitable car, probably in the next 2 days. What about you? Mike responded. My parents will pick me up tomorrow, and then our family should go on a family trip. Peggy talked about her family's plan. As mentioned earlier, Mr. Berry has a small clinic and his family is not short of money. And the little girl's parents will definitely feel sorry for her for the 6 months of boarding school outside. In order to make up for their little daughter, the Berry couple will most likely take Peggy out for a good trip this summer. I wish you a happy summer vacation. Mike sent his blessings. The family conflicts of the Berry couple have been resolved. It is also a good thing for the little girl to get in touch with them more and enjoy the warmth of the family. Thank you, and I wish you a smooth journey. Peggy smiled and continued, see you next school year. Distance creates beauty. Knowing what kind of personality her mother has, Peggy still chooses to continue to go to high school in Melford next year. See you next school year. Mike smiled back. The winter and summer vacations in the United States are not long, only about half a month. So, the two will see each other again soon. At the same time, little Sheldon, who returned to the Cooper family, first looked through his inbox at the door. He found that there was no letter for himself in it, and he went to the room to look for it without giving up. Hard work pays off. Little Sheldon, who searched the entire room, finally found a large stack of college admission letters hidden by Mary in the utility cabinet. I knew I wouldn't be worse than Mike and the others. Little Sheldon smiled. He looked at the admission letters from various universities and then fantasized about his college life. But when Mike and Peggy came to Cooper's house at dinner time, the atmosphere here was not good. What's wrong? Mike asked, looking at little Sheldon's tense face. My college admission letter was hidden by Mom. She doesn't want me to go to college. Little Sheldon answered frustratedly. I don't object to you going to college, but it's too early now. You can't take care of yourself at all. Mary comforted her youngest son. Yes, the reason why Mary hid little Sheldon's admission letter was very simple. That is, she was afraid that without family around, her youngest son would not be able to take care of himself. In her heart, little Sheldon will always be the child who needs to be taken care of. Mary, you are a little too much this time. For this kind of thing, you should at least tell us in advance. George was dissatisfied with his wife's arbitrary decision. In fact, he supported his youngest son to go to college. After all, as a man of the Cooper family, little Sheldon will need to learn to be independent sooner or later. Mom, I can take care of myself. Little Sheldon also made a promise at this time, trying to convince his mother. No, you are too young and have never left home alone. You don't know how hard it is to take care of yourself. Besides, Columbia is too far away. Mary was firm. Mary felt uneasy when she thought about her youngest son going to school so far away. Maybe Shelley can go to the University of Texas where John is and adapt to college life. Seeing that the Cooper family was about to quarrel, Grandma Connie proposed a compromise. Chapter 259 Buying a Car. Now that the university has not officially closed for the holiday, Sheldon can go to the University of Texas first and try to feel the feeling of independent living. Moreover, Professor John teaches at the University of Texas and can help take care of Sheldon. Therefore, Grandma Connie's proposal is a good idea. After another discussion, Mary reluctantly agreed to the proposal that her youngest son go to the University of Texas to experience college life. Of course, the premise is that Sheldon can take care of himself there. Otherwise, Mary will go there in person to pick him up at any time. After all, the University of Texas is not far from the small town of Telford, and it only takes more than an hour to drive there. Great, I can finally go to college to study. After getting his mother's permission, Sheldon took out the admission letter from the University of Texas and shared. Professor John's research project for the Nobel Prize is about to be determined. This time, Sheldon can learn college knowledge on the one hand and help Professor John on the other. Driven by the double temptation, Sheldon is also eager to study at the University of Texas, a college that is not ranked very high. He was even thinking about how to work with Professor John to win the Nobel Prize next year. When Sheldon's schooling was confirmed, the atmosphere at the Cooper family's dining table also eased. George, how is the car issue going? At this time, Mike took the opportunity to ask about the second-hand car. Dale has a Dodge pickup truck that is about 70% new and ready to sell. He offered a price of 10,000 yuan. After George introduced the second-hand car, he continued, "Mike, you can actually drive my car back. Anyway, I won't need it during this period of time." Although he knew that Mike had made some money, considering that the other party was still a student, it was still a bit too wasteful to rashly use 10,000 yuan to buy a car. What's more, he already had a red Ferrari sports car. Now it was summer vacation, and George, who didn't have to go to work and had no plans to go out, didn't mind lending his old Ford to Mike to drive. "Forget it, George. Your old car is almost outdated." Grandma Connie, who was listening to Mike's discussion, turned her eyes and said, "Mike, you can drive my Chevrolet. The quality is guaranteed, and the horsepower is absolutely strong. Of course, in exchange, you need to lend your Ferrari to Grandma for a few days." Mike's red Ferrari is definitely a high-end car in the small town of Telford. It is very cool to drive out. Grandma Connie has long wanted to try it. "Forget it, I'd better go and see the pickup truck first." Mike, who was hit by the abacus beads, rejected Grandma Connie's proposal. Grandma Connie's Chevrolet is also quite old, and it is not much better than George's old car. Mike, who is not short of money now, decided to buy a suitable second-hand car for transportation for the sake of insurance. The next morning, when Mary took Grandma Connie to drive little Sheldon to the University of Texas, Mike also drove the Ferrari to the sporting goods store in the town with George and others. Yes, the person who sold the used car this time was none other than the boss of the sporting goods store, Dell. "Look who's here." In front of the sporting goods store, Dell, who is also a rugby fan, warmly welcomed Mike. Because of the newspaper's publicity some time ago, Mike is now very popular in the city of Telford. Even Dell put up a poster of Mike in his own sporting goods store as a selling point. After all, the latter had bought protective gear in this store before. After a round of greetings, Dell brought Mike and his party to his pickup truck and signaled Mike to take a test drive first. This is the good thing about doing business with acquaintances. Everything can be discussed. Then, Mike tried to drive the Dodge pickup truck, and after feeling the performance of the car, he checked the mileage of the car. This car is indeed, as George said, 70% to 80% new, and the driving experience is also very good. Next, it's time to talk about the price. George, who sensed Mike's intention to buy the car, took the lead and said, "Dale, give me a family price. How about 5,000 yuan? Impossible. You have all seen how old this car is. 5,000 yuan is too little." Boss Dale, who seemed to have been hit by a knife, shook his head and said that he could not accept the price George offered. It was really a bit cruel to cut the price in half. "How about we increase it a little? 6,000." George continued to play the emotional card. This car is sold to Mike. He is still a student. He can't afford it if it is too expensive. No, 6,000 is still too little. Boss Dell paused and said, "For the sake of acquaintance, I can give you a discount. How about 9,000? This car is worth this price." Mike, what do you think? George, who failed to play the emotional card, handed the initiative of the negotiation back to Mike. "This car is really good." Mike first confirmed his intention to buy the car, then looked at Boss Dell and said, "The price is 8,000. If it's okay, I will pay it now." The sale of used cars is a matter of mutual consent, and the price fluctuations are often large. The price of 8,000 yuan for Boss Dell's second-hand Dodge is reasonable, and he won't suffer much loss. "Okay, 8,000 yuan." Hearing Mike's decisive offer, Boss Dell didn't hesitate too much and agreed to the deal as a favor. A perfect version of the book in 1619. After swiping the card to pay the bill, Mike successfully got his second car, a Dodge pickup truck that was about 70% to 80% new. "Mike, can I drive this pickup truck?" Little George asked expectantly after the transaction was completed. His eyes were almost shining as he looked at the Dodge in front of him. A few days ago, little George also celebrated his 16th birthday and had the right to drive a vehicle legally. Here, as long as you are 16 years old, even if you don't have a vehicle driver's license, you can drive on the road accompanied by an experienced driver. Of course, if you want, you can drive it for a ride. Looking at the other party's expectant eyes, Mike agreed to his request. "It's just a car for transportation, no big deal." Great, thank you, Mike. Little George was so excited that he wanted to hug Mike, and he didn't feel embarrassed when he was stopped by the latter. Then, he invited his father to accompany him and excitedly drove the Dodge to the town for a ride. Let's go to the commercial street in the town. After Mike planned the next itinerary, he looked at Peggy and confirmed, "Are your parents sure they won't pick you up until noon?" "Yes, we talked on the phone before," Peggy replied. "That's good. There is still time now. We just go shopping." Mike gestured to Peggy and Missy to get in the car, and the three of them drove slowly to the commercial street. The previous car buying process was very smooth, and it also gave Mike enough time to go shopping with the two little girls. More than an hour later, the two little girls took a car and set off on the way home, holding a big gift bag of snacks in one hand and a fruity ice cream in the other. To be honest, Mike miscalculated a little. The weather was too hot today, and it was not suitable to stay outdoors for a long time. Later, when the three returned to Connor's grandmother's house, Peggy's parents had not arrived yet. George and his son, who went for a drive next door, also did not come back. So Mike asked the two girls to go to the room to rest, and he prepared to make lunch. At this time, Peggy's parents and her sister came over. Then, with the help of Mrs. Linda, everyone enjoyed a hearty lunch. Afterwards, Mike and Missy watched Peggy and her family leave. According to Mr. Berry during the meal, they were indeed going to go on a summer trip. Chapter 260 Vacation Invitation. "Mike, when are you going to leave?" Little George asked at the Cooper's dinner table. "Tomorrow morning." Mike, who got the scooter, naturally wanted to go back quickly and get the inheritance as soon as possible. Cool, but little George seemed to have misunderstood something. He thought Mike was going back for a simple self-driving trip. Little George, who was still excited about the test drive, continued with interest, "I don't know what car I can buy with the money I have. I also want to take advantage of this summer vacation to go out and broaden my horizons." The crystal ball business last Christmas made little George some money. Adding the pocket money he saved, he probably had about 3,000 yuan in his hand. Seeing that Mike was going to do such a cool thing as a self-driving trip, he couldn't sit still. Therefore, little George also planned to buy a car and go on a self-driving trip that sounded cool. Next, he excitedly discussed the used car models he wanted to buy. 3,000 yuan is not a lot, but it is enough to buy a used car. If you are lucky, you might be able to buy a used pickup truck that is about 50% new, or an on-brand SUV. That's enough, George. You don't even have a driver's license now. Let's talk about buying a car later. Mary, who was already in a bad mood because of her youngest son's departure, felt inexplicably irritated when she heard the topic discussed by her eldest son. "I have asked Robin to help with the driver's license. It should be available in the next 2 days. Now I just need a car." George, who was dreaming about a self-driving tour, did not notice his mother's abnormal mood. She was still talking about the car and the self-driving tour. Robin was Pastor Jeff's second wife and worked in the transportation department. It would be very convenient and quick to ask her for help in applying for a driver's license. Mike's current driver's license was obtained by her through internal connections. "Don't talk about the car anymore. You are not allowed to go anywhere this summer." Mary didn't care about the driver's license or the car. As a mother, she was stubborn and unwilling to accept that her children would leave her. I'm afraid every mother has experienced this feeling. This is about the car. Little George still didn't understand what his mother was mad about, but due to the other party's long-term accumulated power, although he was dissatisfied in his heart, he dared only grumble a few words. "Mike, have you prepared for the trip?" On the way back from dinner, Grandma Connie asked with concern. "Everything is ready. I will buy some supplies for the road tomorrow," Mike replied. "There is actually nothing to prepare for a trip alone. Bring 2 sets of clothes to change, and buy some food and drinks on the way. Rest early, pay attention to safety on the road, and remember to call me anytime if there is anything." After returning home, Grandma Connie was still instructing Mike about the travel. Perhaps it was because she saw Mike and Peggy leaving one after another, and Grandma Connie, who had already regarded them as family, now looked a little depressed. "Yeah, I got it. You should also go to bed early." Mike accepted the other party's concern and at the same time, took out the Ferrari car key and said, "Also, Grandma, please help take care of my Ferrari during the days I'm away. Okay, let me drive the Ferrari, take care of it, I guarantee that there will be no problems." Grandma Connie, who was touching the Ferrari car key, suddenly felt better. Seeing this, Mike smiled and shook his head, went to the bathroom to wash up, and then returned to his room to rest. Just when he was about to fall asleep, he received a call from Collins. "Collins, what's wrong with you so late?" Mike asked. Since the last time Mike and Collins talked on the phone with the help of Little Scene, in the following days, the frequency of contact between the two gradually increased. There were online chats and phone chats, but it was the first time to receive a call from a girl so late. "Mike, my brother received a letter of admission from the University of Mississippi. Did you know?" Collins asked tentatively. The girl had mentioned in the previous chat that Michael, a big guy, had worked hard and got a college admission letter with a barely passing score. Moreover, Mike also knew that Collins also got a letter from the University of Mississippi with excellent grades this year. Unlike the special sports recruits, the girl easily applied for the popular major of financial management in the university. "You told me about this before, so what?" Listening to the girl's hesitant tone on the phone, Mike didn't guess the other party's intention. "Because Michael and I were both admitted to the University of Mississippi to celebrate. My father is going to take our family to Hawaii for a vacation." At this point, Collins paused. Then, as if he had mustered up a lot of courage, he invited, "I want to invite you to go on vacation with our family. Do you have time? Sunshine, beach, girls. This is indeed a good opportunity to get closer to each other. What's more, Collins is a very good girl, well educated and smart, and the key is that she is very beautiful. In addition, her family is very rich. This is a treasure girl." Mike is not a wooden man. In the many chats they had had before, he clearly felt the girl's special feelings. It's just a pity that Mike has more important things to do than vacation this summer. "Sorry, Collins. I'm going back to Minnesota recently, so I'm afraid I won't be able to make it in time for our vacation together." After explaining the reason, Mike said softly, "I wish you and your family a happy vacation, okay? You go about your business first, and we'll meet again next time, if we have a chance." Collins' voice revealed a deep sense of loss. This is not difficult to understand. After this summer, the girl will travel far away to Apple City to attend college. If nothing unexpected happens, the two people who are separated by two places may not have the opportunity to meet again in the next year or even later. Collins, who is just beginning to fall in love, obviously can't accept this situation. But the girl can't do anything about this situation. So, after chatting for a few more words, she hung up the phone with a lack of interest. A perfect version of the book in 1619. Mike, of course, also understood Collins's idea this time. If conditions permit, he is willing to have an in-depth exchange with the other party. But it's still the same sentence. It's not the right time yet. Let's talk about it when there is a suitable opportunity. Mike, who has never lacked girls around him, fell asleep after a little greed for Collins' body, nourishing his spirit for tomorrow's trip. At the same time, little Sheldon, who went to Professor John's house, also successfully fell asleep. He was very picky about the place to rest, and he slept very peacefully this time. In fact, little Sheldon was very satisfied with his new life. Professor John, who has been single for many years, has a unique habit of treating people in life. For the arrival of little Sheldon, he adhered to the principle of not disturbing each other while welcoming him. Even for dinner today, the two of them adopted a separate dining system. And this lifestyle just suits little Sheldon's heart. However, two geniuses with eccentric personalities and this eccentric way of getting along are obviously not a long-term solution. Especially among them, there is a child who needs to be taken care of at any time. Time came to midnight, when little Sheldon was awakened by the urge to go to the bathroom. Looking at the unfamiliar environment around him, he couldn't help but feel nervous. "It's nothing. I can do it. I just need to turn on the light." Little Sheldon, who should have sought help, chose to solve the current trouble independently in order to maintain a life habit of not interfering with Professor John. However, he had no independent living ability. He fumbled in the dark for a long time. Not only did he not find the light switch, but he also hit his head in panic. This is blood. The sticky liquid on his hand made little Sheldon know that he had encountered a big problem that could not be solved. The feeling of fear suddenly surged in his heart, and he shouted loudly in a panic, "Help! Professor John! I need help!" Professor John, who was a light sleeper, was awakened by the cry for help. Hearing the anxious voice of little Sheldon, he ran out in a daze. What happened? Sheldon's concern made him confused. In panic, there was a collision in the corridor, followed by Professor John's cry of pain. My leg. My leg seems to be broken. Don't worry, Sheldon, I'll come to you." Professor John, who endured the pain, still did not forget to care about little Sheldon. The noise in the hallway only made little Sheldon, who was in the dark and confused, even more frightened. A 9-year-old child, even if he was a super prodigy, would cry when he was scared. And he would cry loudly. For a moment, the crying mixed with the screams of pain made Professor John's house lively. Chapter 261 Departure. In the middle of the night, there was a series of hurried knocks on the door of Grandma Connie's house. When Mike walked out of the room, he saw Grandma Connie in the living room wearing a coat, holding a baseball bat in her hand, and preparing to open the door. After she found Mike coming out, her expression was much more relaxed. "Who's outside?" Grandma Connie went behind the door and did not open the door immediately. In a place like Texas, where the people are tough, it is not a good choice to open the door Ashley at night. "It's me, Connie. We need help." Mary's anxious voice came from outside the door. Hearing that it was her daughter outside the door, Grandma Connie hid the baseball bat behind her and opened the door. "What happened?" Mary, seeing the anxious expression on her daughter's face with the help of the light, Grandma Connie asked with concern. "It's Shelly. He hit his head. I heard he was bleeding a lot." Mary, who received a call from Professor John in the middle of the night, first briefly explained the reason, and then couldn't help complaining. "I shouldn't have trusted John. He has no ability to take care of Shelly. This is the first night, and such a bad thing happened." Grandma Connie, who gradually understood what happened, also asked worriedly, "Is Shelly seriously injured? Didn't John send him to the hospital?" "That's why I came to you. I heard that John also broke his leg. So George and I are going to go there overnight." Mary begged, "Missy and little George at home. Please help take care of them." What a bad news hearing that Professor John was also injured. Grandma Connie shook her head and said, "Leave it to me. When you go over, see if John needs help." Professor John, who has been single for 70 years and has no children, must need someone to take care of him after something like this happens. At this time, George also started the car and waited for his wife at the intersection. Mary couldn't wait to explain in detail. After promising to look after Professor John, she turned around and hurriedly got into George's car. Under the moonlight, the car disappeared into the night. God bless. I hope they are all safe. Watching the car go away, Grandma Connie still had a worried look on her face. "Do you need me to go to Cooper's house with you?" At the door, Mike, who also understood the whole incident, asked. "No, you go and rest. If there is anything I need your help with, I will come back and call you." Considering that Mike still has a schedule tomorrow, Grandma Connie, who has calmed down, took on the task of taking care of Missy and the two of them alone. "Okay, let me know if you need anything." Mike, who was preparing to leave tomorrow, did not force it. The next day, when Mike got up, Grandma Connie had already prepared breakfast in the kitchen. Although she looked a little tired, she looked very relaxed. "How is Sheldon's matter?" Mike asked. "It's not a big deal, just a little scratch on the forehead." Grandma Connie smiled and continued, "John is fine too. I heard that he sprained his ankle when he went to take care of Shelly. He should be able to recover after a few days of rest." Obviously, Mary was too worried about her younger son last night and made a fuss. She organized the rescue operation in a hurry without listening to Professor John's report clearly. However, from the perspective of a mother, her behavior can be understood. "It's good that you're fine." Mike felt much more relaxed when he heard that the Cooper family and Professor John were fine. After that, with Grandma Connie's instructions, Mike finished his breakfast and drove the Dodge pickup truck to get on the road. The Cooper family next door heard the noise and immediately walked out of the door to see him off. During the farewell session, Mike saw little Sheldon. At this moment, his head was wrapped like a dumpling, and his face looked a little depressed, but he looked in good spirits. At noon, a Dodge pickup truck stopped at a deserted T-junction. There was a weathered signpost on the side of the road. The arrows on it indicated that both forks could lead to Minnesota. One was the road Mike had walked before, and it was a desolate Gobi desert. The other was a small road with dense jungle in front. Mike, who had replenished some water, looked at the scorching sun above his head and immediately chose to take the small road. There was no other reason, just because this small road was cooler. In late June in Texas, the direct sunlight temperature in the wild reached more than 40 degrees, and the iron car was baked like a steamer. I hope there is a place for people to rest for a while. Mike drove the car into the small road while looking at the roadside. It would be best if there was a small hotel where people could rest, and if not, it would be good to find a shade in the jungle to cool off. As long as we can get through the hottest time at noon, Mike thinks it is worth it, even if it takes a detour. Boom! Just as Mike was looking for a suitable place to rest, there was a strange sound from the tires. Flat tire. Mike controlled the steering wheel and stopped the car safely. When he got out of the car to check, the left tire in front of the car had already deflated. What bad luck. Although he had a spare tire, Mike still felt uncomfortable that the car had broken down to such a place. Then when he checked the cause of the flat tire, his brows furrowed even more. A rusty nail. In addition to this nail, there were other small metal parts scattered on the roadside. All signs showed that this place was not simple. Just then, two men covered in oil and looking like beggars ran out of the jungle on the roadside. The correct version is found in the 16:9 book forum. As soon as the two appeared, they rushed towards the pickup truck with their hands and feet dancing and let out an ambiguous roar from their mouths. Under the high temperature, the stench of the two people could be smelled from a long distance. Mike, who felt that the other party was not friendly, kicked them twice when they approached and knocked them down. "Who are you?" Mike, who had reason to suspect that the male on the road was the work of the other party, used a little more force when he kicked. However, what was surprising was that after being hit so hard, the two rolled on the ground twice and then climbed up one after another, as if nothing had happened. Only then did Mike notice that the two men were taller than ordinary people, and the length of their hands and feet was also very strange. They were obviously two deformed children. At this time, the roars of the two people who were attacked became sharp, and their bloodshot eyes were like those of wild beasts, full of desire to attack. It seemed that they were about to pounce on them in the next step. It's really bad luck. It turns out that they are two crazy people. The mental state of these two deformed children obviously cannot communicate with normal people. Just as Mike was about to drive the two away, a thin man who looked like a skeleton and carried a huge toolbox appeared on the road and blocked the deformed children. "Sir, do you want to repair your car?" The thin man looked at Mike with a flattering expression. Because he was too thin, his cheeks were completely distorted, and he was a walking skeleton. Of course, the most impressive thing is the man's eyes. His eyeballs are too big, and he has no upper eyelids. His thin cheeks and bulging eyeballs make him look like a dehydrated flounder. Similarly, Mike also noticed that the two deformed children behind the man were extremely ugly under their sloppy long hair. The combination of these three people can definitely be called monsters. They are the kind that can scare people to tears at night. "Who are you?" Mike, who carefully observed the three people, asked the previous question again. "My name is Big Eyes, and these two are my brothers." After Big Eyes introduced himself, he continued, "Because there are often car accidents at this corner, we opened a repair shop over there." Following the direction of the other party's finger, Mike saw that there was indeed a shed supported by a torn canvas at the corner. Further ahead, there was a small wooden building that looked like a hotel. "How much does it cost to repair the car?" Facing the thin man's almost humble attitude, Mike asked. 100 yuan per tire. How about it? Do you want it repaired? Big Eyes bent his waist. His posture was still very humble. "How long will it take to fix it?" Mike continued to ask. In this scorching weather, he didn't mind paying a little money for someone to help fix the car. "This car only has one broken tire, and we can fix it for you in half an hour." Big Eyes continued to say earnestly, as if he was afraid that the customer would run away. "It's so hot. While we are fixing the car, you can just go to the store over there to rest for a while. The ice beer there is great. Okay, call me when the car is fixed." This place is not far from the store on the corner, and Mike doesn't have to worry about the other party playing tricks. After getting the customer's consent, Big Eyes immediately directed the two deformed children to start repairing the car. Although these three people look strange, they are very skillful in repairing the car. After watching for a few minutes and confirming that the other party had no chance to make tricks, Mike walked towards the store on the corner. Chapter 262 Fatal Turn. The wooden inn is small and looks old and faded. The large patches of oil on the wall show that the owner of this inn is not a clean person. There is a black bulletin board at the door with a detailed map of the path ahead. At the bottom of the bulletin board, it is written in eye-catching red paint, "There are wild beasts in the forest ahead. Please be careful." The whole inn exudes a gloomy feeling. If the car had not broken down nearby and the weather was too hot, Mike would not have thought of entering such a strange inn. "Wow, young cowboy, what do you need?" At the dim counter, a woman in her 30s looked very enthusiastic after seeing Mike's appearance. The woman was dressed coolly and had a good figure, but her face was not flattering. The loose skin could not hide the oldness even with heavy makeup. A bottle of cold beer. Mike found a relatively clean place to sit in front of the black and red counter and put the wide-brimmed cowboy hat on his head aside. Wearing a beige hard shirt with a clean and handsome temperament, he seemed out of place in this shabby little shop. "Do you need something to eat? The store has just received a new batch of beef." The woman pushed a glass of bubbling beer in front of Mike, showing her yellow teeth, and asked, "The scale of this store is really small, and you can see the end at a glance." In the back kitchen, a tall man whose face could not be seen was chopping meat attentively. One by one, there was a dung dung sound. Above the man's head, a fan that was about to go on strike filled the entire room with a strong smell of blood. "No need." Mike retracted his gaze, and even the beer with 2 ice cubes floating in front of him was not prepared to touch. The rag that the woman used to wipe the beer glass just now was no longer recognizable in its original color, and it looked disgusting. "It's so hot. Are you traveling alone?" The woman didn't seem to notice Mike's disgusted expression. After wiping her hands with the rag, she sat opposite him and teased, "In fact, we also provide special services here. If it's a handsome guy like you, I can help you cool down for free." As she spoke, the woman leaned forward, tightened her arms, and exposed most of her northern hemisphere. The intention of seduction is obvious. However, her appearance coupled with her pretentious appearance will only make people feel nauseous. "Thank you, I'm not that kind of person." The gentleman. Mike interrupted the woman's speech. Although the other party tried his best to hide it, the greed in his eyes was still visible. "That's a pity." After being rejected, the woman still stared at Mike without blinking. The greed in her eyes became stronger, as if she was staring at her prey. "Do you know the 3 people who are repairing the car outside?" Although it was very faint, Mike still smelled it. The stench on the woman was very similar to the 3 people outside. "They are my brothers, 2 of whom are mentally retarded. In order to avoid being discriminated against, our family has to live in such a place." When talking about her family, the woman's face was rarely warm. In her story, their family seemed to have suffered a very unfortunate fate. "How much is the beer?" After listening to the woman's story, Mike stood up and prepared to leave. He didn't want to stay in this small shop with a strange smell for a moment. "You saw the sign outside the door. Why not stay here for a night? Wait until you meet other travelers to go together. The road ahead is not safe." The woman seemed to have not expected Mike to leave so eagerly and spoke to keep him. "No, the beasts can't hurt me." Mike put on his cowboy hat and was determined to leave. "Well, I wish you a safe journey, and this beer is my treat." The woman showed a little regret, as if she was looking at a beautiful handicraft that was about to be destroyed. But in the regret, there was a different kind of madness. Sure enough, this family was not normal. Mike took out a 5 yuan bill, pressed it under the beer glass, and turned away. The scorching sun outside was more comfortable than staying in the store. When Mike returned to the pickup truck, the 3 brothers had already repaired the tire and were screwing it in. After a while, the 3 brothers, braving the scorching sun, installed the tire. "This is your award." Mike counted out 100 yuan, handed it to the big-eyed man who nodded and bowed, and got in the car. The car started again, and after passing the bend, Mike seemed to have a feeling, and looked in the direction of the hotel. Sure enough, in front of the wooden building, a woman and a man holding an axe were also looking at the Dodge pickup truck. Under the grey and messy long hair, there was a weird and terrifying fierce face. Obviously, the man who chopped meat in the kitchen before was also a deformed species. Summer travel and adventure are the favorites of young people nowadays. This year, Jess, who graduated from high school and was admitted to a good university, was dragged by his friends to go on a wild adventure. Because it was an adventure, the 5-person team, including Jess, chose to walk on remote roads without navigation, intending to seek excitement. Then their car had a flat tire on a forest road with no village or shop in the distance. At the same time, Chris, a clerk who had to rush from Texas to Carolina for work, chose a shortcut to the forest that he had never taken before at the T-junction to save time. However, the more anxious a person is, the more likely he is to make mistakes. Check out the error-free version in the 16:9 book forum. Chris, who was in a hurry to get on the road, hit the car of Jess and others that had broken down halfway at the corner of the forest road. In the violent collision, the 2 off-road vehicles were completely scrapped. Fortunately, no one in the 2 groups was injured. However, their good luck ended here. In the deep jungle, a greater crisis was waiting for them. When it was night, Mike, who did not meet the hotel again, chose to continue driving at night. Under the moonlight, the dark environment and the swaying shadows of the trees, this forest road seemed to have no end. But driving at night was very cool. After another bend, Mike saw bursts of fire in the jungle. Along with the fire, there seemed to be the roar of wild beasts. Just when he was distracted, a black shadow rushed to the road and blocked the pickup truck. "Don't want to die." After the harsh brakes sound, the car stopped in front of the girl. "Help. Help us. There are man-eating monsters in the forest." God knows what Jess has experienced that day. At this time, she called for help from Mike and looked at the jungle behind her in horror, as if there was something terrifying there. Then, with the sound of branches breaking, a tall humanoid monster carrying a bow and arrow and holding a huge axe appeared on the side of the road under the moonlight, following Jess. No seeing the ogre appear, Jess showed despair on his face. The ogre, which is more than 2 meters tall and has a row of serrated teeth, is indeed very oppressive. Just as the ogre approached the girl step by step and raised the huge axe in his hand, Mike got out of the car in time and grabbed the ogre's axe from behind. The action was interrupted, and the ogre Auden turned around with an extremely ugly face full of anger. "It's quite strong." The monster struggled at least twice as hard as an ordinary person. It's just a pity that his current opponent is not an ordinary person. After taking a lunge and retreating, Mike easily snatched the ogre's giant axe and chopped the monster to the ground with a unilateral crushing posture. "What's your relationship with the deformed man who opened the shop in front?" Mike asked after stepping on the ogre's chest with one foot, making it unable to move. The smell of this ogre is very similar to the smell of several people at the inn at the intersection. It's equally disgusting. Chapter 263 Fatal Bend, continued. The ogre was wearing simple linen clothes and looked more like a wild man. Under his greasy and sparse long hair was an ugly face full of tumors, and his jagged exposed gums made him look extremely terrifying. With such a monster appearance and a physique far beyond that of ordinary people would only die if they met it. Jessie, who was standing by, saw Mike facing the ogre head on and was about to speak to remind him to be careful. As a result, before she could say her concerned words, she saw the handsome young man subdue the monster in a few moves. That scene was like a hero in a movie. You actually defeated it. If the environment was not inappropriate, Jess's eyes would have stars in them. There are 2 more monsters like this in the forest. My companions are trapped by them at the signal tower. Please save them. After being surprised, Jessie, who did not forget her companions, limped to Mike's side. Looking at the ogre under the man's feet, she seemed to have overcome her previous fear. This monster didn't seem so scary. Because the location was remote and there was no signal, Jess and his 5 companions, along with Chris, a small staff member, chose to go around to see if they could find someone to help them after their car broke down. Then, they encountered a bloody ogre. With its horrible appearance and superb hunting skills, Jess's 2 companions were killed instantly without resistance by the monster. The remaining 4 people fled in fear and went to the ogre's lair in the forest. There they saw hell on earth. In a big pot, people were treated as food by the ogre like animals. Seeing this horrible scene, the 4 people fled again in fear. After another battle of wits and courage, the 4-person team lost another person. Then, the 3 people who got out of the magic cave were lucky to find an external signal tower in the forest. When they used the radio in the signal tower to send a distress signal to the nearest security team, the ogre followed the trail and caught up again. After that, the ogre, who couldn't break the door, chose to set fire to the signal tower. In this case, if Jess and the other 2 didn't want to be burned alive, they could only jump off the tower to survive. Fortunately, the tall trees around the signal tower gave the 3 people a place to stay. However, after jumping onto the tree branch, Jess failed to hold the branch in time and fell to the ground with bumps and bumps. Before being killed by the surrounding ogres, Jess, with her tenacious will to survive, finally escaped back to the path with her wounds all over her body. Then, it was here that she happened to meet Mike, who was driving at night. At this time, Mike also found that the monster under his feet was struggling or angry only by animal instinct, but had no ability to communicate with people. This is a beast that can use tools. Facing the beast that can hurt people, Mike raised his knife and fell, and used the huge axe in his hand to chop off the other's head. "Lead the way ahead, we will go to save your companions," Mike said to the girl who witnessed the bloody scene and was about to scream. "Oh, okay. Carly and the others are in danger now. We have to hurry over." After experiencing all kinds of dangers, Jess's mental will was obviously tempered. After calming down, she immediately took Mike and rushed to the signal tower in the forest. Super strength. Under the same physique, it can exert strength far beyond that of ordinary people. Maximum available double strength. This is the characteristic light ball that exploded when the monster was killed just now. This kind of light ball on an ordinary person may only create a strongman. But for a little superman like Mike with explosive basic attributes, it is definitely a magical skill. After crushing the light ball and feeling the surge of power, Mike, who was holding a giant axe, was looking forward to what good things the next 2 monsters could contribute to him. On the way to the signal tower, Mike also noticed that there were many traps such as traps and lassos hidden in this forest. The dark brown-red spots on the traps showed that the monsters living in this forest often hunted passing tourists. At this time, at the signal tower, where the flames were burning, the surviving staff member Chris jumped along the tree branch to another big tree. "Don't be afraid, jump over here, I will catch you." Chris, who stood firmly on his feet, turned around and shouted to Carly behind him. The 2 ogres who stayed here did not seem to intend to kill their prey so quickly. They were like cats playing with mice, enjoying the fearful howling of their prey before death. It turned out that these ogres were not completely without wisdom. Under the big tree, a tall ogre with pale skin was holding a bow and arrow to draw the 2 humans on the tree to prevent them from escaping. Another agile and thin ogre had already climbed up the branch where Carly was and was threatening the girl with his face with a mouth full of jagged teeth. Carly, who was trembling and standing on the top of the branch, looked at the monster with a terrifying face in front of her and had lost her belief in survival. "I can't do it." Facing Chris's shout, Carly, with snot and tears, was like a frightened bird and could fall off the tree branch at any time. This was the scene Mike and the others saw when they arrived. Without waiting for Jess to speak, Mike had already swung the giant axe and threw it at the ogre, who was drawing his bow and arrow under the tree. Bang, the giant axe spun and hit the pale ogre's chest. The correct version was found on the 16:9 book forum. What surprised Mike was that the giant axe seemed to hit the rock and did not break the ogre's chest. Fortunately, the blow was powerful enough. Although the ogre did not bleed immediately, he was still knocked away by the giant axe. Whoosh, due to inertia, the ogre released the bow and arrow before falling to the ground. Over there, Carly, who had become a frightened bird, could no longer hold on after hearing the bow sound. After shaking a few times, she fell headfirst from the tree. For a moment, the girl's screams resounded through the night sky. "Don't scream, beautiful girl. "You're safe," Mike said to the girl who was screaming in his arms. Huh. Carly opened her eyes tentatively and saw a handsome man's face, and she was lying in his arms in an ambiguous posture. It was a wonderful feeling to be saved from a desperate situation. Thank you for saving me. How did you?" The girl who was out of danger began to think. She was very curious about how the man caught her when he was clearly more than 10 meters away. From the time Mike swung the giant axe to the time the girl landed, it took no more than 3 seconds. Under normal circumstances, ordinary people would not care so much. Fortunately, Mike was not an ordinary person. His nerve strength far exceeded that of ordinary people, so he could easily choose to save the girl first after judging that the ogre on the ground was not a threat. The enemy has not been dealt with yet, we'll talk later. After putting the girl down, Mike turned and walked towards the ogre lying on the ground. The admiration in the girl's eyes was obviously under the suspension bridge effect, but her current image of crying and snotting was not good. With the light ball to hold, the girl's appeal was naturally not as good as the ogre. On the other side, the ogre was knocked to the ground, with a large dent in his chest. With blood, foam in his mouth, his eyes full of bloodshot were staring angrily at Mike, who was walking towards him. Obviously, this was a monster that only remembered grudges. In front of the monster, Jess picked up the giant axe on the ground and was confronting the monster unilaterally. "Let me do it." Mike, who had returned, took the axe from the girl. Then, accompanied by a click, the axe that chopped on the ogre's neck seemed to hit a hard stone again. The monster with strong defense was not only not chopped to death, but also showed a tendency to be ferocious. "It's a hard bone." To be on the safe side, Mike crossed the curled axe blade and changed from chopping to hitting. With the flying bricks, it didn't take long for the monster's head to be hit into watermelon juice. Stone skin as hard as stone, not afraid of sharp blades. "Good stuff." Mike put down the giant axe and showed a satisfied smile on his face. After obtaining the characteristic light ball again, he felt that the decision to take this forest path did not seem so bad. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 264. Hut. Behind him was the fire of the signal tower, and in front of him was the watermelon juice all over the ground. The handsome man was holding a bloody axe in his hand, with a slight smile on his lips. All kinds of scenes outlined a bloody and weird picture. "My name is Chris. Thank you for saving me." Chris climbed down the tree and stopped not far from Mike, with a little vigilance on his face. "Next, what are you going to do?" Mike didn't care about the man's attitude. He glanced at the 3 people and looked into the depths of the forest. Just when killing the ogre on the ground, Mike noticed that the thin and flexible ogre on the tree bounced away from the scene by using the branches. In that situation, without long-range weapons, it was impossible to keep the other party. But the monk can escape, but the temple cannot, and this leak Mike was determined. "We called for rescue before, or wait for the rescue team to come," Carly said tentatively. She had just experienced the ordeal of life and death, and she didn't want to face the man-eating monster again. "I want to collect the bodies of my dead friends. Their bodies should not be destroyed by monsters." Jess looked at Mike with burning eyes. The cruelest method of the ogre is not to kill people, but to treat people as food. The big pot with boiling hot water left a deep impression on Jess. The dead should not be desecrated in that way. What's more, there are his friends in it. Jess didn't dare to think about what the escaped ogre would do to Scott and his body if he left. Scott, Evan, and France were members of the previous adventure team. Now their bodies were left in the ogre's lair. Chris, a clerk in the company, also didn't want to face the terrifying ogre again. Just thinking of the scene he saw in the monster's lair before, his eyes flickered a few times, and he said firmly, "If you want to deal with the remaining monster, I'm willing to help." Sympathy for one's own kind probably refers to Chris's current situation. After his speech, the situation on the scene became clear, 2-1. Of course, Mike must go to find the remaining monster. Even if it is for the special light group, he has to go this way. So, it is 3-1. "You can wait for us on the roadside." There is a pickup truck with food on it. Mike arranged Carly's direction. Don't leave me, I will go with you. Carly, who had just been frightened, didn't dare to stay in the forest alone. Now, she can only feel a little relieved by staying with Mike. It seems that we have reached a consensus, Mike said to the girl who came over. Then let's go together. Solve the trouble early and leave here early. At this point, a hunting team targeting the ogre was established. Led by Jess and the other two, Mike walked through the jungle and came to the ogre's lair. Under the moonlight, a small wooden house with a gloomy feeling appeared in front of everyone. The large open space around the wooden house was filled with densely packed scrapped vehicles of different ages, roughly estimated to be more than 100. This shows how many passers-by the ogre has killed over the years. Hush, wait for me here. In front of the wooden house, Mike made a silent gesture and walked forward alone with a huge axe. With his extraordinary hearing, he heard a slight movement in the cabin. Obviously, the escaped ogre was hiding inside. Squeak with the slight sound of the door being pushed open, a spear came towards Mike. Before he could look inside, faced with a sudden sneak attack, Mike deftly turned his body to the side. Without giving the other party a second chance to sneak attack, a big hand quickly grabbed the spearhead and pulled it out with force. With the sound of the collision, the wooden door was closed again, and the ogre in the house, who didn't have time to let go, also hit the back of the door due to inertia. Then, Mike kicked the dilapidated wooden door and the ogre behind the door with all his strength. There was a cracking sound, and dust and wood chips flew together. A strong sense of blow before Jess and the other two behind him could exclaim. Mike had already walked into the dim cabin with a huge axe in his hand. Then, in the cabin, there was a sharp sound of bones breaking and waves of monster roars. When Jess and the other two arrived, the monster's limbs had been chopped off. In the large pool of blood, the skinny ogre showed a tenacious vitality. While roaring, he stared at the man holding the blood-stained axe in front of him with hatred with his bloodshot eyes. The picture moved to the side. Under the reflection of the torches on the wall, bloody clothes, boning knives, and broken bodies were scattered all over the long wooden table. At the end of the table, there was a large pot with a diameter of more than 2 meters, with bones and meat rolling in it. Obviously, the escaped ogre was preparing a midnight snack for himself. Ugh, ugh, ugh. The strong visual stimulation and the strong smell of blood made Carly, who had just entered the cabin, cover her mouth and run out. Then, Jess and Chris, who also couldn't stand this visual impact, also left the wooden house with pale faces. It's really a beast. Mike also saw the scene in the house and knew what it meant. The giant axe fell again, and an ugly head flew out. The skinny ogre finally ended his sinful life. Tenacious life. When seriously injured, you can use your physical strength to recover from the injury. Detected that it can be fused. Whether to fuse? Yes, no. Read the correct version in the 16:9 book forum. Fusion. Host of the pickup system, Mike Quinn, Zaokun, Intelligence 194 plus, 164 Super Genius, Constitution 599 plus, 100 for ordinary adult males, Skills, Football LV4, 1W/10W, Acting LV3, 5691/10,000. Silver Tongue LV3, 2963/10,000. Golden Gun LV3, 691/10,000. Shooting LV3, 241/10,000. Skills are divided into 5 levels. More skills can be seen by expanding. Characteristics: Demon Body 1. Immortality, Tenacious Life 2. Eternal Youth 3. Fast Healing, Stone Skin 4. Huge Strength. Moonlight 1. Can enhance combat effectiveness by 50% at night 2. Can absorb the energy of the moon to enhance its own physique. Note, similar characteristics can be stacked and fused. As expected of an ogre, Mike has integrated all the characteristics he got from the 3 monsters into his demon body. With his tenacious life characteristics, he can slowly recover as long as his head is not taken off. On the other hand, the physical bonus of the moonlight characteristic has also reached its limit. If Mike wants to continue to improve his physical fitness, he needs to stack stronger characteristics. On the other hand, in terms of intelligence, Mike has become a super genius and can learn anything quickly. He can quickly learn any skill that requires thinking and reach the third level, professional level. Mike, what are you going to do here? Jess, who had finished vomiting, returned to the cabin. How about setting it on fire? Mike put forward his own opinion. At least hundreds of wronged souls are buried here. Such a sinful place should be burned clean. It's better to burn it, Jess said, looking at the rags on the long table. The girl recognized those rags, which were the clothes of her dead friend. At this time, Chris, who had recovered, also entered the cabin again. Then, he helped Jess to pick up the clothes and minced meat on the table. The good news was that Mike and his friends arrived in time. The ogre had only divided the meat into pieces and had not yet put it into the pot. Half an hour later, Mike, carrying a bag of jewelry, overturned the bonfire beside the long table and the torches on the wall, setting the entire cabin on fire. In the open space outside the house, Jess, with the help of Chris, just buried her 3 dead companions. As for Carly, she vomited several rounds again and was now weakly sitting on the ground to rest. What's in your hand? Chris, who had finished digging the soil, saw Mike coming out and immediately came over. After a series of events before, Chris adjusted his attitude and regarded Mike as the backbone. Although it was only temporary. What are you talking about? Mike handed over a photo in his hand. The photo was a photo album of a family. How is this possible? This woman is the owner of the hotel at the intersection. The 3 monsters behind are ogres. Chris, who received the photo, widened his eyes in shock. You know, the reason why he stubbornly chose to take the shortcut through the forest was because he saw the map on the bulletin board at the small hotel at the intersection. Combined with what happened here, everything seemed to reveal a hint of conspiracy. Chapter 265. Eliminate all evil. Let's go. Let's get out of here first. After the cabin was completely engulfed by flames, Mike, who was carrying a package, signaled others to leave together. Mike gained a lot from this rescue. In addition to getting 3 characteristic light balls, he also got a large bag of jewelry. These valuable items that people usually use for decoration were thrown into the corner by the ogres like garbage. Obviously, with the intelligence of these ogres, they should not think of collecting those valuable items. Behind this, it is very likely that someone is instructing the ogres to collect valuable things. The weight of Mike's package also shows that someone should have come to the cabin before and took away valuable items including banknotes. In front of the cabin, Jess and his friends found the big crane used by the ogres to tow cars in the abandoned car pile next to it. This is a crane modified from a heavy semi-trailer with a large claw-shaped grappling hook at the back of the car. It is precisely because of this grappling hook that all the cars that were towed were turned into scrap metal. The few people had no choice but to drive the semi-trailer full of stench and rust back to the main road. 10 minutes later, the 4 people who returned to the main road saw a pickup truck parked halfway. Take a break first, I have food. Mike jumped off the semi-trailer with the package. He walked to his pickup truck and threw the package on the co-pilot seat. Then he went to the back compartment and took some food and drinks. After experiencing a series of escapes, Jess and his 3 friends could be said to have not eaten all day. At this time, they did not say politely to Mike. After taking the food and water, they wolfed it down. Emergency dry food, chocolate, small bottles of purified water, these most common foods, were eaten by Jess and his 3 friends as delicacies. As the food went down, the 3 people who had replenished their nutrition felt that they were really alive. At the same time, a real complex emotion of surviving a disaster surged in their hearts. Carly, who had escaped death several times, cried softly. What happened on this day was like a nightmare. Fortunately, everything is over now. Next, you go to the nearest town to rest. I have something to do. After drinking some water, Mike leaned against the pickup truck. Seeing that the 3 had eaten and their emotions were stable, he immediately started to arrange the itinerary for several people. By the way, Chris, before you leave, give me back the photo. Hearing this, Chris, who took out the photo, seemed to realize something and suggested, let me go with you. The intelligence of the ogres shows that they are pure beasts that eat raw meat and drink blood. In this case, where do their weapons cranes, and living utensils come from? Where did they learn to set traps and hunting skills? Excluding all the impossibilities, there is only one truth. Someone is behind the ogres. Chris is different from Mike. He chose to take this forest path with the map and the deliberate guidance of others. Yes, Chris, who was in a hurry to get on the road before, asked the owner of the hotel at the intersection for directions. Connecting the before and after, as long as you are not stupid. The identity of the person behind the ogres is about to be revealed. I can handle this kind of thing by myself. You three should find a place to rest. Mike took the photo and did not agree to Chris's request. It's not like they were going to treat each other to a meal. There was no need to bring so many people. Moreover, if Mike's guess was correct, there might be a bloody scene soon. It's better to keep it a secret when silencing someone. Where are you going? I'll go with you. Carly, who felt that Mike was going to leave alone, immediately came up to him. After being saved by Mike once, this girl seemed to have developed a different kind of dependence on him. Jess, who looked over from behind, didn't say anything, but the expression on her face also showed that she was very worried about Mike. Facts have proved that being too popular is also a kind of trouble. Be obedient. You guys find a place to rest first. When I'm done, maybe we can see each other again. Mike patted Carly, who came up to him, and then turned to Chris, who was thoughtful, and said, the rest of the journey, the two of them will be left to you. Compared with women, men have a stronger ability to withstand stress. Chris, on his side, seemed to have guessed Mike's thoughts. He took out a business card and said, contact me anytime, if you need anything. Chris, Carolina Stock Exchange / business manager. Although he was just a small employee of a securities company, Chris's identity was enough for him to solve some unnecessary troubles. Okay, I'll call you if I need anything. More friends mean more ways, so Mike accepted the business card. Moreover, in his opinion, Mr. Chris was a smart man. Among the three people who were rescued, Chris might be the only one who knew what was in Mike's package. However, he wisely did not mention it. He completely regarded it as Mike's personal trophy. The two sides seemed to have a preliminary tacit understanding, which was also the reason why Mike was willing to continue to contact each other. Let's go to. I don't know how far ahead we have to go before we can see the town. After watching the pickup truck go away, Chris, as the only man at the scene, planned his itinerary. It's not far. The nearest town is only more than an hour's drive away. The expedition team of Jess and others came to Texas from other places to explore. The road they took was just the opposite of Chris. Therefore, Jess also knew the situation at the other end of the path. An hour's drive? Good. I'm going to take a hot bath and have a good sleep. To hell with work. The reason why Chris took a shortcut this time was because the company asked him to get back in 3 hours. This was an impossible task. And because of this task, the young employee who suffered a huge crisis was also full of resentment towards work. Work. Compared with life, it's nothing. On the side, Jess, who didn't know why Chris suddenly stood there, pulled Carly away from the man. In the 16:9 book, the correct version. On the other side, Mike, who was eager to verify his guess, drove the second-hand pickup truck to the highest speed on the way back. With the driving skills of a 4th level professional racing driver, it was nothing for him to drive fast at night. In less than 2 hours, the pickup truck returned to the hotel at the corner of the small road. It was almost midnight. The lights were still on in the small hotel, and there were bursts of charming sounds under the lingering figures. What a perverted game. Mike looked at the scene inside the house through the crack of the door, as if he had eaten a stink bug. His eyes were dirty, and he needed to wash them well. The white-haired man chopping meat was obviously the father. No wonder they would cultivate monsters and cannibals. This family that broke the bottom line of human insemination is deeply sinful. Maximum. Darn. In order not to continue to pollute his eyes, Mike, who was standing outside the door, knocked on the door politely. Who is it? After the rustling sound of clothes being put on, a woman's voice came from the room. Well, there should be nothing to see. Bang. After giving the few people who were exercising enough time to tidy up, Mike used the force to break the door again. Violent and direct. The woman in the room, who simply covered her vital parts, was first startled by the huge movement. When she saw the appearance of the person coming, she turned on the car lights and tempted, "Cowboy in the daytime, do you want to join us?" It's hard to guard against. The disgusting posture of the woman pretending to be charming can be described in one sentence. Disgusting mother opens the door to disgusting. "Do you know the monster in this photo?" Mike asked coldly after taking out the photo. He walked into the small hotel with dark red bloodstains on his white shirt, and his stern expression made him look ill-intentioned. The game of several people in the room was interrupted, and they were always on guard. After seeing the photo, the woman knew that what her family had done had been exposed. So, she shouted fiercely, "Kill him." The first to rush up were the two violent deformed brothers. Then, it was the white-haired man and the skinny car mechanic. As for the woman, she sneaked towards the counter under the cover of several people. In the hall, roars accompanied by bone-cracking sounds rang out, and finally turned into wails. Mike, who was in a very bad mood, did not hold back. He saw the right opportunity, and kicked 4 times with high whip kicks, to repel the 4 people who rushed up. Under the powerful blow, the 4 people flew out, each in a miserable state, and had lost the ability to resist. During the attack, Mike also deliberately did not use his hands. If you want to ask why, it's probably because he has misophobia. Chapter 266. Eliminate all evil. Continued. The woman who went to the counter quickly pulled out a double-barreled shotgun from the secret compartment. However, as soon as she turned around with the shotgun, before she could see the situation clearly, the weapon in her hand was snatched away. Outside the counter, Mike was playing with a Remington shotgun in his hand, but his eyes were fixed on the woman opposite. "Wait, we can talk." Looking at the other party's relaxed expression and the 4 people wailing behind him, the woman knew that she had kicked the steel plate this time, and said in horror, "We can give you money, a lot of money. Please don't hurt us. Please don't get me wrong, I'm actually a good person." Mike held the shotgun upside down in one hand and corrected the other party's mistake. With the other hand, he showed the photo again and asked, "Now can you tell me what happened between you and the 3 monsters in the photo? I don't know what you are talking about." Speaking of the ogre, the woman once again avoided the topic with a guilty conscience, and her eyes also glanced at the thick beer cup on the counter, as if she wanted to struggle. Still not honest Mike, who found that the woman was still making small moves, and probably guessed that this family had done something evil, had very limited patience. Therefore, when the woman deliberately delayed and concealed, he swung the shotgun and hit her in the face. For a moment, blood and teeth flew together. Amid the collision, the woman first knocked over the wine cabinet behind her, and then fell to the ground and fell asleep. It was just evidence. Since the other party was unwilling to say it, Mike could find it himself. So he turned around and used the same method to make the 4 people behind him fall asleep. Not to mention, this Remington is easy to use. Later, on the way to the back hall, Mike passed by the kitchen and saw a huge leg bone on the chopping board. This family is really cannibals. Although he was mentally prepared, Mike still couldn't help feeling cold in his heart. Eating meat, just based on this point, the 5 people in the hotel no longer had any need to live. Then, Mike went to the backyard and saw expensive watches, pearl earrings, necklaces, wallets and other small items scattered all over the floor. In the corner, next to a crucible for smelting metal, more than a dozen small gold bars, as long as a hand were neatly stacked. These things once again confirmed Mike's previous speculation. Afterwards, he went to the hotel accommodation area and saw a giant safe in a master bedroom. After violently opening the safe, in addition to dozens of gold bars and several bundles of rice, there was also an old notebook lying at the innermost. Gene fusion and hybridization experiments. This notebook is an experimental notebook from a secret research institute nearly 100 years ago. Judging from the content, a group of crazy scientists tried to create a new human being in an unconventional way. However, since this notebook appeared here, it means that the research institute 100 years ago may have been destroyed by the monster they researched. And this hotel is probably the descendant of one of the monsters that escaped at that time. It can be predicted that there are many monster homes like this in other places. What a terrible discovery. More than half an hour later, Mike, carrying a large bag of loot, appeared at the counter again. "What else do you want to quibble about?" After waking the woman up with a can of iced water, Mike threw the notebook in front of her. "You can't kill me, we are also victims." The woman was completely furious, looking at the increasingly cold expression of the man in front of her, and she was really scared this time. "Is this your last words?" Mike did not sympathize with the other party because of the experience of the woman's ancestors. It is God's business to forgive them, and what Mike has to do is to send them to see God as soon as possible. "We have a certificate of mental abnormality issued by the hospital. You can't kill us." Seeing that pretending to be pitiful was useless, the woman changed her survival strategy. Mental abnormality means lunatics, and the Madman Immunity Act was introduced decades ago. Obviously, the hotel, while providing cover for the cannibals in the forest, also studied the rules of civilized society. Think about it, if this family did not have this ability, the cannibals' affairs would not have been hidden for so many years. Mental abnormality does not prove your innocence. Forget it. Why am I telling you so much? The other part is sins. Living one more second is polluting the air. So Mike waved the shotgun and put the woman into a deep sleep again. The family was able to die in a coma, which was already the last mercy for them. Then, the inn filled with strong liquor was washed away by the flames. When the whole inn was engulfed by flames, Mike threw away the slightly deformed shotgun in his hand and got on his Dodge pickup truck. This world is really dangerous. Looking at the flames behind him, Mike couldn't help but sigh in his heart after connecting the contents of the notebook. At the same time, when he set off again, on the other side, Jess and others who were heading to the nearest town were intercepted by police officers who came to rescue them after receiving a distress signal and were taken to the police station. "Please tell the truth. What is the situation with your car?" a young police officer asked in the interrogation room. There was no way. The semi-trailer crane stained with dark blood was too conspicuous, and it had to make people suspicious. A correct version in the 16:9 book bar. "That's not our car. There are ogres in that forest, fortunately, Mike." In order to explain the whole story, Jess was about to tell the story of Mike saving them. At this time, Chris coughed. After interrupting Jess's speech, he continued, "Fortunately, we were lucky. We escaped when the ogres were fighting among themselves." Carly, who was standing by, couldn't help but argue when she heard Chris put aside all the credit for Mike's saving herself and others. Then, she was pulled by Jess. Jess had already reacted at this time. The matter of the ogres was a big trouble. It was best not to get involved if possible. Besides, it was not easy to explain that Mike solved 3 powerful monsters by himself. If one was not handled well, it would bring a series of troubles to the other party. "Monster ogres?" The young police officer seemed to have thought of something and asked seriously, "Can you tell me more about the situation of the ogre's nest in the forest?" In recent years, people have often disappeared nearby, which is a headache for the local police station. And this responsible young police officer who was willing to work in the middle of the night seemed to have discovered something strange in the ogre incident. Next, Chris told the police officer in detail about the situation of the ogre's nest in the forest. "Okay, you can go and rest first." The young police officer, who had already guessed, did not embarrass Jess and the others. When sending the 3 away, he reminded them, "Please don't leave the town for the next 2 days. I will contact you if there is any situation." The local police force was not enough to solve the cannibal issue overnight, and the young police officer still needed time to report to his superiors. "Why didn't you let me talk about Mike just now? It was obviously him who saved us." Carly, who walked out of the police station, questioned her bestie. "If you don't want to cause trouble for Mike, you'd better not tell anyone that he saved us." Jess patiently explained the reason to Carly and then suggested, "Let's find a place to live near the intersection. When Mike arrives, we can also talk to him." At dawn, when Mike drove a pickup truck to the town, at the entrance of the town, he unexpectedly saw 3 familiar figures. "Didn't you go to rest? Why are you here?" Mike stopped the car and asked curiously. After washing up, Jess and the other 2 were much more energetic. However, the overpass rush still made them look tired. "It's a long story. Let's go to the hotel and talk about it slowly." Chris spoke first. Okay, Mike followed the 3 people and went to a nearby hotel. Jess and others had already booked a large room for him in advance. If it's not urgent, I want to clean up first. Mike, wearing a bloodstained shirt, said to the other three after entering the room. Chapter 267 Incident Handling. When Mike took a comfortable hot bath and returned to the living room, he found that the atmosphere here was not good. Carly looked very unhappy. Although she knew that Jess and Chris did not reveal Mike's rescue for their own good, it did not affect the girls' feeling for Mike. However, when Mike appeared in a bathrobe with half-dry hair combed back, his handsome features immediately diverted the attention of the two girls at the scene. Mike, who saw the reactions of the three people, went to the guest room beverage area, poured a small half glass of red wine for each person, and asked, "Who can tell me what's going on now?" Seeing that the two ladies in the room were temporarily caught up in Mike's beauty attack, Chris explained, "It's the follow-up handling of the cannibal. The police station has targeted us." Then, Chris told them everything about the three of them being invited to the police station overnight, and the fact that he had concealed Mike's rescue. After explaining the cause and effect, the small employee of the securities company stared at Mike with a nervous face. Although it was for Mike's good to help hide the rescue, Chris was still a little afraid that the other party would misunderstand him when he was not sure of his personality. Financial management experience plus 10. Financial management experience plus 10. Thank you, Chris. You saved me a lot of trouble. Mike, who had received a series of experience light balls, seemed to be in a good mood. With his intelligence, he only needed to think about it for a while to understand Chris's intention. At the same time, Mike was sure that Chris was a flexible person, so he thought that if there was a chance in the future, he could invite him to be his financial advisor. "Okay, Mike. I should go to rest. If you encounter any trouble in the future, you can contact me. As long as I can help, I will never refuse." After chatting for a few more words, Chris, who remembered the life-saving grace in his heart, said goodbye with great insight. When he left, he smiled and gave Mike a look that all men understand. Then he left the room to the three young people, who made our beautiful girl unhappy again. After Chris left, Mike took a glass of wine and sat opposite Carly and the other two girls. Under the soft light, the two girls exude different charms. "I just think it's unfair. You did a good thing, but you didn't get the reward you deserved." Carly, who has a straightforward personality, expressed her thoughts. Obviously, the girl regarded Mike as her own, so she felt sorry for him. This is obviously a good opportunity to receive praise. "It's okay, Carly, I didn't save people to get praise." Mike smiled gently. "Let's talk about your situation. Have you contacted your family?" "I have contacted them. Tomorrow, my family and Jess's family should come to pick us up." Sure enough, Carly was distracted. Girls with simple personalities are like this. Their emotions come and go quickly. Then, Mike picked some light topics and communicated with the two girls. During the chat, Mike learned that the two girls were admitted to Ivy League universities this year. Now they are half college students. Jess has good grades and applied for the most popular software programming and information technology majors. Carly's side is a little worse, but she was lucky to be admitted to the Ivy League fashion design major. As the conversation went on, the two girls became more and more relaxed, and they drank more and more red wine. Having just escaped death, they obviously needed an indulgence to completely calm down. All the people present were young people, and they were all handsome men and beautiful women. So, tacitly, Mike experienced college life in advance. Charm attribute plus 12. Holy Spear experience plus 5. Glib experience plus 5. Charm attribute plus 10. Holy Spear experience plus 3. Glib experience plus 3. After a crazy moment, it was noon. Removing the arm wrapped around him, Mike left a note for the two girls who were sleeping soundly, and then left the room. All good things must come to an end. Mike had told the girls before that he was in a hurry to return to Minnesota, in order not to delay the trip and worried Innocent his wife. After a simple lunch at the hotel, Mike set off on the return journey again. At the same time, more than a dozen local police officers went to the ogre's lair and blocked the scene. "Johnny, is this the ogre that the three survivors mentioned?" The sheriff, with a rank on his shoulder, looked at the two monster corpses in front of him, then turned to the young police officer beside him and asked, "It should be them." But according to the parties involved, there are 3 ogres here. This police officer named Johnny was the young police officer who had taken a statement from Jess and the other 2. Thinking that the ogres here were very dangerous, he specifically asked the sheriff for fire support. However, when he led the police to encircle and suppress the monsters, he found 2 severely damaged monster corpses and a small wooden house that was burned to ashes along the way. Are you sure those survivors are not lying? The sheriff had a question. The densely packed abandoned vehicles around have confirmed that the missing people near the town are all the work of the monsters here. The good news is that the real culprit of the missing people case has been found. The bad news is that the local police department did not find any opportunity to perform in this incident. This situation highlights the incompetence of the local police department. For the sheriff, this way of solving the case is not a good thing. The 3 parties involved should not have lied. They don't look like they can deal with the monster. Johnny's thoughts were not as complicated as the sheriff's. He continued with some worry. I hope the 3rd monster also died in the internal conflict. Yes, Johnny, who had seen the whole picture of the monster, already believed that these monsters had an internal conflict before, which gave Jess and the other 2 a chance to escape. Now, Johnny only hoped that the 3rd monster would not cause a greater safety hazard to the people around. It would be best if the 3rd monster was burned to death in the cabin. Just when Johnny was thinking about good things and the sheriff was having a headache about how to write this report, a black SUV arrived at the crime scene and 2 men in black suits got out of the car. A correct version in 1619 book bar. Who are you? The sheriff stopped the 2 men in black outside the cordon and asked. Appearing at the crime scene at this time, these 2 tall men wearing sunglasses looked very suspicious. We are detectives from Apple City. The situation here is special, so we have taken over. The leading black man showed his FBL certificate. These 2 black men were tasked by the headquarters to come here to solve the cannibal problem. However, judging from the situation, they seem to be a step late. We don't know much about the situation here. Please feel free to do whatever you want. The sheriff, who was just complaining about the hot potato, immediately threw the problem out when he saw someone taking over. Very good. Thank you for your cooperation. The leading black man nodded and took another black man to the monster's corpse. Boss, why do I feel that they don't look like detectives? Johnny whispered to the sheriff at the cordon. Wearing an expensive black suit and sunglasses while handling cases, he didn't look like a serious police officer at all. Who cares? Anyway, the certificate is real. The sheriff, who was nearly 50 years old, was obviously more tactful. Strictly speaking, the level of a local sheriff is not lower than that of an Apple City detective. But what does it matter? Anyone who can produce an Apple City detective's card, even if he is not a detective, must be someone special. It just so happens that a man-eating monster appeared in this incident, and this is not something that ordinary people should deal with. These 2 monsters are indeed our targets this time. It seems that we are lucky, the leading man in black said in a relaxed tone, after checking the bodies of the ogres. This kind of injury is simply impossible for ordinary people. Should we check who did it? The younger brother of the man in black seemed a little worried. One of the 2 ogres in front of him had his head violently chopped off. The other one had his head hammered into a meat pie. At the same time, the chests of the 2 monster corpses had different degrees of dents. It is not common in the headquarters of the man in black to achieve this kind of killing effect with cold weapons alone. We are just scavengers. Let's leave the investigation to the guys at the headquarters. The leading man in black obviously didn't want to cause any trouble and continued. We can report the situation here truthfully. Go around and see if the 3rd ogre has been eliminated. According to the internal information of the men in black, there are 3 ogres here. The task of the scavenger is to make sure that all 3 ogres have been eliminated. Cleaning up the scene is what the scavenger should do. Not long after, the men in black found the 3rd ogre's body burned to charcoal in the ashes of the cabin. At this point, the men in black's cleaning mission this time is considered to be completed. Please dispose of the bodies of the 3 monsters. Also, don't disclose the situation here to the outside world for the time being. As for how to do it, someone will contact your police station later. The leading man in black specifically reminded the sheriff before leaving. In order not to cause panic to the public, the headquarters of the Men in Black has its own set of procedures when dealing with mysterious side events. Of course, if someone doesn't cooperate, the Man in Black doesn't mind taking out the memory eraser. On the other side, Mike, who was on his way back, finally arrived in the small town of Minnesota before the sunset. Chapter 268 Minnesota. Minnesota town is located in the midwestern state of Mingo, in the temperate continental climate zone. The mild four-season climate makes the vegetation here rich. At the same time, it is also suitable for growing crops such as corn, wheat, cotton and fruits. In terms of economic value, the rich Minnesota town is much higher than the town of Telford. Therefore, the permanent population here is much larger than that of Telford. With the afterglow of the evening, Mike parked the pickup truck in front of an old house. Although the appearance of this house is not very good, it is a two-story building with an independent large yard. It is not an exaggeration to call it a small villa. This is the home of Dennis and his wife. Hearing the engine sound outside the yard, a middle-aged couple came out. After not seeing each other for a year, Dennis still looks the same as before, but the hair on his head is a little thinner and the beer belly is a little rounder. Next to him, the woman with soft brown hair and soft eyes is Dennis's wife Kelly. Stinky boy, why did you come back so late? I was worried for a while. Dennis came forward and hugged Mike, who had just got out of the car. Then, he looked at him carefully and said with a smile, "You have grown taller and stronger, which is really good." His words revealed a deep sense of relief. On the side, Aunt Kelly also came forward to hug Mike and said with a smile, "Mike, why do I feel that you are getting more and more handsome? You must have fascinated many girls." Aunt Kelly, who is in her early 30s this year, still has some lively habits of a girl under her mature appearance. Like her husband, Kelly also works in an orphanage, mainly responsible for the work of a nurse, that is, taking care of children. Therefore, she naturally has a different kind of affinity, which makes people feel very comfortable. After not seeing each other for a year, the relationship between the three people is not alienated. Afterwards, Dennis was left outside to park the car, and Kelly took Mike to the room. "Go wash up first, we'll have dinner in a while." After entering the room, Kelly said with a smile, "Today's dinner is very rich." When Mike went to the bathroom to wash his face and came to the restaurant, the table was already full of food. Grilled fish, flavored burritos, French fries, chicken platter, nut tortillas, vegetable noodles with raw walnut sauce. In addition to the staple food, the fruit salad plate is also dotted with cherry tomatoes, small cherries, mango cubes, etc. These ingredients are basically produced locally. I have to say that this small town in Minnesota is indeed a good place. Afterwards, when Dennis parked the car and came back, Kelly had already pulled Mike to sit at the dining table and chatted about family matters for a while. "Dennis, we are just waiting for you to have dinner." Seeing her husband come in, Kelly asked him to sit down. Because of the influence of work, Dennis and his wife are both believers. So, under Dennis's organization, the three of them completed the prayer before dinner. "Mike, try today's dishes and see if they suit your appetite." After the prayer, Kelly asked Mike to have dinner. Mike, who hadn't had a proper meal for 2 days, was indeed hungry when faced with a table full of delicious food. On the side, watching Mike eating with great relish, Dennis and his wife looked at each other and smiled warmly at the same time. It is worth mentioning that Dennis and his wife like children very much and have been planning to have their own children. It's just that, because of the busy work at the welfare home, this plan has not been implemented yet. Here, after Mike slowed down his eating speed, Dennis asked a concerned topic. "Mike, did you encounter any trouble on the way back?" According to the normal schedule, Mike should arrive at noon today. Even if there is a slight delay on the way, he should arrive in the afternoon, instead of waiting until it is almost dark to come back. In fact, Dennis had proposed to pick up Mike in person in the town of Telford before this. We were delayed for a long time when leaving the Texas border, but nothing happened. Mike did not tell the story of the cannibal. This kind of secret behind the scenes means trouble for ordinary people. The less you know, the safer you are. As long as everything goes well. Dennis believed Mike and changed the subject to ask, "How is your life over there? I heard that you joined the school's football team and played well." In life, Grandma Connie and the Cooper family take good care of me. And I did join the football team and played well in this year's spring invitational. Mike was happy to share the trivialities of life with Dennis and his wife. At the same time, he also told them about his self-made money. I see. I was wondering how you could afford a pickup truck. Listening to Mike's story, Dennis unconsciously smiled again. It was the kind of gratified smile of seeing his own children grow up. In fact, Mike also had some selfish motives when talking about his own money. He wanted to use this kind of thing to prove that he was capable of inheriting the inheritance. When he had almost finished introducing his situation this year, Mike asked casually, "By the way, how is Neddy now?" Neddy Lesnicki is Mike's classmate here, and also a good friend of the devil Jennifer. Growing up with Jennifer, she envied her brilliance. In order to be as popular as her, she imitated Jennifer for a long time. From dressing to living habits. Check out the correct version in 16:9 book bar. At the same time, the plain-looking Needy once hated Jennifer because she was too good and overshadowed her own brilliance. It can be said that Needy's feelings for Jennifer are very complicated. But one thing is certain, Needy cherishes Jennifer very much. Similarly, Needy, who deliberately accommodates Jennifer in life, has also won Jennifer's friendship. After all, who would hate an obedient follower? It was in this relationship that when Jennifer was possessed by the devil, she never thought of hurting Needy, her good friend. Jennifer even tried to share her ability with Needy. Devil's body, the ability to stay young forever, has a fatal attraction to any girl. Needy, who had been taken to the abyssal by Jennifer, knew many of her bestie's little secrets. Among them, there was the fact that Jennifer coveted Mike's body. So, after Jennifer disappeared and Mike returned safely, Neddy suspected that the disappearance of her bestie was related to Mike. Mike still remembered that exploratory look. "Are you talking about Neddy Lesnicki?" Hearing the question, Dennis thought for a moment and said, "Not long after you went to the town of Telford, the girl was also taken away. After that, there has been no news of her. I have some impression that Neddy seemed to be taken away by two men in black suits and sunglasses." Kelly suddenly interrupted. Listening to Kelly's description, Mike can be sure that the people who took Neddy away should be the black organization. But why is this? Just because the girl and Jennifer are besties? Did those two black men say anything about Jennifer? Mike looked at Kelly and asked. "Mike, I know what you want to ask. Jennifer's drowning was an accident, and it has nothing to do with you. You don't have to care about other people's eyes," Kelly counseled Mike distressedly. Before Jennifer disappeared, many people knew that she had dated Mike. Therefore, after Jennifer died, many people pointed fingers at Mike, thinking that he killed Jennifer. As a celebrity in the local school, Jennifer had a lot of fans. I don't want to ask this. I want to know about Jennifer's suspected possession by the devil. Did the two men in black say anything? Mike asked the key point. What devil possession? Didn't Jennifer die by accident? Kelly seemed to have forgotten the rumor that Jennifer was possessed by the devil and continued, "It's a pity for that child. She's still so young." The rumor that Jennifer was possessed by the devil and specialized in eating men caused quite a stir in the small town of Minnesota at the time. However, Kelly now seems to have no impression of it at all, which is very suspicious. Mike, who had some guesses, then asked Dennis to confirm Jennifer's matter. As expected, he also forgot about the rumors of demonic possession. Now Mike was sure that the two men in black who had come to the Minnesota town had definitely used a memory eraser in the town. It was obvious that the black organization was planning to cover up the mysterious incidents from ordinary people. Chapter 269 Millionaire. By the way, Mike, are you sure you want to take over the family inheritance now? After chatting about family matters, Dennis asked about what he was most worried about. That was an asset of more than $1 million, which was a huge sum of money in today's situation, where the average monthly salary was only $2,000 or $3,000. Dennis was a little worried about whether a child who had just turned 16 could grasp the money. After all, it was not uncommon for poor people who suddenly became rich to squander money at will and then become paupers. Moreover, the proposal to do Mike a favor and let him take over the assets in advance was the opinion of the leaders of the welfare home. If Dennis, the guardian, said he would rather wait 2 years later until Mike was more mature before taking over the assets. I really need that money now as a startup capital. Mike answered affirmatively. Dennis, from Mike's answer, heard that he had greater ambitions. This happened to be the most worrying situation. Mike is now like a rich second generation. As long as he doesn't mess around, he can be a rich man safely. On the contrary, if Mike uses the money to do venture capital or something, he may lose all his capital. Considering this situation, Dennis frowned and was about to persuade him. Okay, Dennis. Mike's family still has a manor. And with us watching, nothing will go wrong. Kelly reminded her husband. This gentle wife also understood Mike's intention. But she thought more long term. Mike, who owns a piece of fixed assets, has the capital to toss. The worst case scenario is that Mike squanders the inheritance and then comes back to be his own farmer with peace of mind. Okay, since you want, I will take you to the notary office tomorrow to help you get the inheritance back. Dennis is not stupid. He looked at Mike and said seriously, but I still want to remind you that you are still too young now, and it is best not to spend that money indiscriminately. I understand. Mike nodded and accepted the other party's concern. After talking about the inheritance, the warm atmosphere on the table returned to the previous one. Next, Mike's evaluation of the delicious food also made Kelly, the housewife, smile happily. The next morning, Dennis took Mike and the staff of the welfare home to the local fund notary office as promised. After a series of procedures such as identity verification and tax payment, Mike got the huge inheritance of more than 1.2 million as he wished. Today's Migo, more than 1 million assets are enough for anyone to enter the rich class. And for Mike, with this more than 1 million capital, he is confident that in this era, he can quickly become a multi-millionaire, or even more, and thus squeeze into the ranks of capital. Mr. Mike, if you need it, the welfare home can provide you with an economic team at any time to take care of the money for you. The staff of the welfare home found Mike, who got the inheritance. A professional economic advisory team to manage wealth for the rich is very common in Migo. This is also a conventional means to ensure the interests of the rich. The welfare home originally intended to win over Mike, so it would naturally consider it very comprehensively for him. Thank you, but no. I have my own plans for this money. Mike politely rejected the kindness of the welfare home. Well, if you need, you can contact us through Dennis at any time. The welfare home staff did not bother too much. After expressing his sincere wishes, he left the notary office first. Millionaire, how do you feel now? Dennis, who walked out of the notary office with Mike, asked jokingly. Feeling? I feel like I'm full of the fragrance of money. Mike spread his arms exaggeratedly and made an intoxicated expression. Okay, I know you are a rich man. Looking at Mike's childish appearance, Dennis smiled and shook his head, and then asked, so, millionaire, where do you want to go next? Because of Mike's matter, Dennis asked for 2 days off from the welfare home. Now the two of them still have a lot of time and can go to the town. Come with me to the farm to have a look, Mike suggested. As far as he knows, the area of his farm is not small. Except for the corners that are not suitable for growing crops, there are about 10 hectares of good fields. Not long after, a pickup truck drove into a small farm in the suburbs. What caught the eye was a neat vineyard. Now is the season for grapes to bear fruit. The bunches of green grapes on the vines look very pleasing. Master Quinn, Mr. Dennis, you are here. A man who looked like a butler in his 50s came up to greet them. Uncle Kenya, you still look so energetic. Mike smiled and greeted the visitor. Kenya is an old man on the farm. He has been working for the Quinn family since Mike's father's generation. And the old man's son and daughter-in-law are also helping out on the Quinn family's farm. It can be said that this family is considered to be the Quinn family's own people, and they are absolutely trustworthy. Thanks to the young master, my old bones are still strong. Kenya, who has a neat beard, smiled brightly. After that, the old man took Mike on a tour of the farm. At the same time, he introduced the recent situation on the farm. Mike, who actually saw his own farm, had many ideas in his mind. The grapes on this farm are mainly used as raw materials for making wine. Read the correct version in the 16:9 book bar. Harvest once a year. In Mike's opinion, this operation model can completely improve the crops planted, thereby creating more benefits. For example, the vineyards with low economic benefits can be changed to grow cotton, which is more valuable. During this period, fennel, corn and other crops can also be interplanted. Even if grapes are continued to be planted, the grade of the wine can be refined during the grape winemaking process. Starting from quality and story promotion, create a unique wine brand. With the brand effect, it is also possible to acquire surrounding land. If this model is developed successfully, it is entirely possible to create a big farmer. It's just a pity that Mike has no intention of staying on the farm to grow bigger and stronger. After all, the development prospects in the stock market are better than the farm economy. As for Mike's ideas for the development of the farm, he can mention it to Kenya later. Kenya received the news that Mike was coming back early in the morning. Therefore, after taking Mike around the vineyard, he took people to the manor in the farm and took out last year's account book. "Uncle Kenya, go and get busy. I'll call you if there is anything," Mike, who got the account book, said with a smile. After Kenya left, Mike simply flipped through the account book. After making sure there was no big problem, he stopped looking at it. "Dennis, I want to give you some shares of the farm. What do you think of 2 layers?" Mike put down the account book and expressed his thoughts. This can be regarded as his return to Dennis's family for taking care of him. In fact, the work of Dennis and his wife in the welfare home is more of a public welfare nature, so the salary is not very high. In a horizontal comparison, the income of Dennis and his wife is much worse than that of the Cooper family. The only difference is that Dennis's family has no children, and the financial pressure is not that great. But not having children now does not mean that there will be no children in the future. Instead of waiting for Dennis's family to have a child and live in poverty, it is better to tie him to the farm. Give him a legitimate reason to take care of the farm and at the same time increase the family income. "No, this farm is something your parents left you. I can't interfere." After hearing Mike's proposal, Dennis refused without thinking. "To be honest, Uncle Dennis, I don't think I'll be back here very often in the future. The farm needs someone I can trust to help take care of it." Mike explained his reasons and continued, "The 2 layers of shares are my compensation to you. If you don't feel comfortable with it, you can donate some of it to the welfare home to help the children there improve their lives. The 2 layers of shares are worth at most 20,000 yuan a year." Mike thinks it's worth it to use this money to maintain the relationship between Dennis and the welfare home. Chapter 270 Benefit Distribution. Seeing that Mike was not joking, Dennis thought for a long time and said, "Let me discuss the shares with Kelly in the evening." Okay, Mike nodded and did not force it. When Mike and the other finished talking about business, it was almost noon. At this time, Uncle Kenya led a woman dressed as a village woman and walked in. "Master Quinn, it's almost time for dinner. I found someone to prepare lunch for you." The woman behind Kenya was his daughter-in-law. At this time, the reserved woman was holding a lot of fresh ingredients in her arms. "Then I'll trouble you," Mike responded with a smile. After that, Uncle Kenya took his daughter-in-law to the kitchen. Mike, on his side, was walking around his own manor. To be honest, since he came here, he hasn't taken a good look at this slightly old house. Because it is a self-use land, the manor covers a very large area and the materials used are also very particular. It can be seen that after knowing that Mike is coming back, Uncle Kenya has already asked someone to clean the house in advance. Facing the sunlight reflected from the French windows, the clean and bright big house has some antique flavor. With the plantation outside the window, it is a good place for vacation and leisure. Living room, study, cloakroom, utility room. After going around the rooms in the manor one by one, Mike went down the stairs to the spacious basement. There are also some wines preserved in wooden barrels. They are all homemade wines. When I go back, I can bring some to Grandma Connie and Coach George to taste. When Mike came out of the basement and went to the restaurant, lunch was basically ready. Dennis was helping Kenya and the others to bring food to the table. "Master Quinn, please eat." When the food was served, Kenya led his daughter-in-law to stand aside. "We are all family, let's eat together." Mike greeted Kenya and the others with a smile, and then said, "By the way, Uncle Kenya, ask your son to come over too." "This, okay." Although Mike was smiling, he gave Kenya an irresistible feeling. He turned to his daughter-in-law and said, "Susan, go call Killy over and tell him that the young master is looking for him." Got it? Susan, who hadn't sat down yet, ran out of the restaurant with a dang. Before everyone had to wait for long, Susan came back with a sturdy man. This man was Kenya's son Killy, who had a neat beard like his father. Perhaps because of long-term labor, the man exuded a sense of simplicity. "Dad, young Master Quinn." After greeting, Killy stood there honestly. "Everyone sit down, let's eat first." Mike glanced at the person who came and said with satisfaction. After getting permission, Killy looked at his father's eyes again and then sat at the dining table with his wife. Although the ingredients of the food made by Susan were not expensive, they were fresh and large in quantity. Killy was obviously an honest man. He had just finished working and was hungry. After May started eating, he also started to enjoy the food. During this time, his bold behavior caused Uncle Kenya to glare at him several times. However, Mike admired Killy's straightforward character, and Susan's cooking skills were indeed good. At least Mike was quite satisfied with the meal. When the Kenya family had almost finished eating, Mike said, "Uncle Kenya, I have some other ideas about the operation of the farm." Then, Mike roughly talked about his prospects for the development of the farm. Finally, he said bluntly, "The development of the farm will be handed over to you in the future. According to this situation, I will give you 2 employment options." Mike looked at the Kenya family. "The first one, based on the original salary, I will increase your basic salary by 5 levels. The second one, according to the annual increase in the farm's income, I will give you appropriate dividends." Mike is obviously not stingy when it comes to his own people. The 2 salary plans are both big surprises for the Kenya family. The first one is a guaranteed income regardless of drought or flood, and the second one is more work, more pay. "Dad, let's choose dividends. According to the young master's previous proposal, the farm will definitely get better and better. Unlike Kenya's father, Killy, who is only in his 20s and in his prime, has a lot of energy. Master Quinn, isn't this too much?" Ignoring his son's urgency, Uncle Kenya said sincerely, "You deserve this treatment." Through previous contacts, Mike is willing to believe in his own vision. As for misjudgment, there is Dennis next to help keep an eye on it. Then, under the persuasion of his son, Kenya finally chose a second dividend plan. "Very good. Please take care of the development of the farm in the future." Mike didn't mind Kenya's family making more money. As long as the cake is big enough, a win-win situation can be achieved. A correct version in 16,191 book and 1 bar. Next, Mike notified Kenya about the distribution of shares to Dennis. Both of them are now a community of interests. After solving the farm problem, Mike drove to town with Dennis. After not coming back for a year, there are 2 more commercial streets in Minnesota town, and many more shops and stores in other living areas. The development level is not worse than other second-tier towns. Mike, who has been walking around the commercial area, found several jewelry stores and 2 banks here as he wished. Yes, Mike plans to take the batch of gold and jewelry in his hands here to exchange for cash when he is free tomorrow. When it was evening, at the dining table of Dennis's house, Mike told Kelly about the farm shares again. Hearing that Mike was going to give her family shares, Kelly felt it was inappropriate at first. Then, after Mike's explanation, she seemed to understand the other party's intention. While taking the shares, she helped the other party take care of the farm. In connection, Mike promised to give dividends to Kenya's family. Dennis and Kenya are a community of interests, and they also have the responsibility to supervise each other. This situation is also the result of Mike's deliberate action. How about this? We take 1 layer of the 2 layers of shares in the farm, and the remaining layer will be donated to the welfare home in your name every year. After careful consideration, Kelly gave Mike a compromise plan. "No problem on my side. After we draft the contract tomorrow, we can find someone to notarize it at any time." Mike made the decision and agreed to Kelly's proposal. On the side, Dennis, who hadn't figured it out yet, saw his wife accepting Mike's benefits and was about to question him. "Dennis, Mike will be our boss from now on. You should pay more attention to the farm in the future." Kelly took the lead in speaking to her husband before she spoke. Given Dennis's family situation, they really need to make some extra money to raise a child. Kelly was also considering her own small family. Taking care of the farm is a small problem. We don't need to take Mike's shares. Dennis didn't seem to have figured it out yet. Go to the room later, I'll talk to you alone. Kelly glared at her husband, looking like she wanted to say something but stopped. With Mike here, Kelly was inconvenient to do many things, so she explained them to her husband. I'm full. See you tomorrow. Mike smiled and glanced at Dennis, then stood up and prepared to leave. Hey, aren't you living here anymore? Kelly tried to keep him. No, I want to go to the farm to rest. I want to take care of some things. Mike waved his hand, determined to leave. He still needed to pack up his jewelry and gold bars tonight so that he could find a place to sell them tomorrow. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 271. Settle the concern. Mike returned to the farm under the moonlight and unexpectedly met Kenya in the manor. Master Quinn, you are back. Do you need me to call Susan to prepare dinner for you? Uncle Kenya asked as he came out to greet him. It can be felt that, since the dividend plan was chosen, the Kenya family has become more respectful to Mike. No, I've eaten at Dennis's house. Mike looked at the old man and said, it's getting late, you should go back and rest. After sending Kenya away, Mike took out a large package from under the backseat of the pickup truck and walked into the manor. Many of the gold and silver jewelry in the package were stained with blood. In order to avoid unnecessary trouble, Mike needed to at least clean them again before selling them. Time came to the next day. Early in the morning, Kelly led her husband to invite a staff member of the notary office to come to Mike's farm together. Mike, this is the contract we drafted. You can see if there are any problems. Kelly handed over a standard contract generously. This contract not only indicated the destination of the tillers of farm shares, but also the special amount on the subpage indicated that Dennis and his wife would serve the farm. Obviously, this share transfer contract was more like an employment contract. Mike, who had read the contract, smiled and said nothing more. Then, under the witness of the notary, he signed his name on the contract. After handling the share transfer and sending the notary away, Mike turned to Dennis and his wife and asked, have you had breakfast? Do you want to eat together? Mike, who had slept in, had just gotten up and was now preparing to enjoy his breakfast. Dennis praised your food level yesterday, and I just wanted to try it. Kelly replied with a smile, not shy at all. Dennis, who was beside her, seemed to be hesitant to speak, but finally followed Mike to the restaurant. Mushroom soup, vegetable wraps, sandwiches, freshly squeezed juice. The table was already filled with a rich breakfast. As for Susan, who was cooking, she was washing and rinsing in the kitchen, looking very busy. Mike knew yesterday that Kenya's daughter-in-law was thin-skinned, so this time, he didn't deliberately invite her to dinner. Aunt Kelly, please feel free to eat whatever you want. As the owner of the manor, Mike greeted Kelly and her husband warmly after entering the restaurant. Then I'm welcome. Unlike her husband who was worried, Kelly seemed to be in a good mood now. Then, the three of them enjoyed breakfast separately. Mike, thank you for this time. Halfway through the meal, Dennis, who had been silent for a long time, finally spoke. Through his wife's explanation last night, he roughly understood Mike's intention to divide the shares. But in the end, he still took advantage of Mike, which made Dennis feel very complicated. After all, he worked in a welfare institution and sincerely helped those in need, and he didn't think about using his work to collect any rewards. Uncle Dennis, we are a family, aren't we? Mike said gently. Isn't it interesting to tell a story about good people being rewarded? Besides, Mike had indeed received a lot of care from Dennis before, and it was nothing to give him some benefits within his ability. Yes, we are a family. Looking at Mike's sincere expression, Dennis seemed to have figured it out. Moreover, as a middle-aged man working in a welfare institution, his meager salary could hardly afford the family's plan to have a child. In a word, Dennis's family needed this extra money. You plan to stay here for a few days? Dennis, who had figured out his thoughts, cared about Mike again and said, if you want, I can help you to clear the way so that you can come back to school here again. It has been a year since the Jennifer incident. With the efforts of various forces, the impact of the incident has been calmed down a lot. Therefore, it is not impossible for Mike, who was implicated in the incident that year, to come back to school now. I don't have such plans. The Jennifer incident has only been calmed down for the most part and has not been completely forgotten. At least Jennifer's family, friends, and students at school have not forgotten her so quickly. At this time, if Mike chooses to come back to live and study again, it will inevitably evoke unpleasant memories for many people. Being called a freak and isolated is something that can be expected. Human nature can never stand the test. Although Mike is not afraid of this kind of thing, there is no need to trouble himself. I plan to go back to Telford tomorrow, so I won't go to say goodbye to you. Mike said his plan. The high school summer vacation here is only a dozen days, so Mike's schedule is very tight. If he leaves tomorrow, Mike may be able to rest for 2 days when he returns to the town of Telford, and then he should prepare for school. Well, it's good to go out to school. Dennis sighed. He didn't have a good solution for Mike's situation. Then, Dennis and his wife once again cared about Mike's life and study in the town of Telford. It was not until almost noon that the two left the farm. A correct version of the book in 1619. After sending the two away, Mike felt more tired than fighting with an ogre. This kind of work, to deal with elders, is obviously a physical job. Susan, tell Uncle Kenya that he doesn't need to prepare lunch for me at noon. Later, Mike went to the room to pick up the package and left the manor. The gold bars and silver jewelry obtained from the ogre are at least hard currency and will not depreciate much. However, those jewelry and second-hand watches that have not been maintained for a long time are seriously discounted. After visiting several jewelry stores, the prices are not very ideal. If Mike has enough time, he can negotiate with several stores to raise the price. It's a pity that he is in a hurry to sell these stolen things. So after comparing prices from 3 stores, Mike chose a jewelry store with the most suitable price and sold all the second-hand jewelry in his hands at once. As for the large amount of gold in his hands, the jewelry store cannot take it all. Faced with this situation, Mike, who was too bothered, went directly to the bank and sold all the gold in his hands at a slightly lower price. Although this transaction was a slight loss, Mike, who got back on the pickup truck, still showed a happy smile on his face. Because of the large amount of goods this time, Mike's bank card has more than 900,000 yuan. Now he is already a real 2 millionaire. It was only past 4 in the afternoon. Mike, who had no other plans, decided to go to the abyss altar that had swallowed Jennifer. It was called the abyss altar, but it was actually a waterfall with a lake at the bottom of the waterfall. Perhaps because of the water flow, there was a large bucket-shaped whirlpool in the center of the lake. Driving through the thorn forest in the wilderness, Mike came to the top of the waterfall. Looking down, there was no whirlpool in the center of the lake, and everything seemed very normal. It seems that people from the church should have been here too. Mike, who had the demon body, did not feel a different atmosphere here, but he was sure that it was not like this before. At least the whirlpool in the lake gave people a very ominous feeling before. It was the kind of bad feeling, staring into the abyss. The abyss is also staring at you. Sitting on the top of the waterfall for a while, Mike, who still did not find anything unusual, seemed to have let go of a worry. Not long after, he drove away from here and went to the farm. Chapter 272. Return again. The morning light came and another day had passed. Although they had said goodbye yesterday, early this morning, Dennis and his wife came to Mike's manor to see him off. Smelly boy, take care of yourself when you go there. Remember to call us if you have anything. After a day of adjustment, Dennis returned to the parent mode. At this time, he was pulling Mike and telling him about the precautions for his life outside. I know, Mike replied, then looked Dennis up and down and said, you should also take care of your body and try to have a baby with Aunt Kelly as soon as possible. Dennis, who was countered, touched his increasingly bulging beer belly awkwardly and retorted stubbornly, smelly boy, this is not a problem you should care about. You just need to take care of yourself." As he said, he stretched out his hand to touch Mike's hair, as if he wanted to maintain his dignity as an adult. As the saying goes, a man's head and a woman's waist are both in the range of not being touched. Mike, of course, did not have the habit of letting a middle-aged man touch his head. So, the two chased and hid, circling the pickup truck. On the side, Ms. Kelly watched the two play with a smile. In the back of the Dodge pickup truck, Kenya and his son Killy were loading goods into the back compartment. In addition to 2 large wooden barrels of 50 kilograms of homemade red wine, the rest were vegetables and fruits grown on the farm. They are considered local specialties here. "Master Quinn, everything is loaded." Uncle Kenya, who had finished loading, called Mike. "Okay, thank you for your help." Mike stopped and looked at the full load of ingredients in the back compartment and said, "This is what we should do." Kenya smiled and said, "I wish you a safe journey, young master." At this time, Dennis, who caught up from behind, put away his playful look and said sincerely, "Boy, be safe on the road, and take care of yourself." "Got it, Uncle Dennis. But you also need to exercise more." Mike looked at Dennis, who had just run a few laps, and was already sweating, and glanced at Kelly, saying with ulterior motives, "When people reach middle age, it is inevitable that they will feel powerless." Seeing that Dennis, who was poked in the sore spot, was about to turn red, Mike jumped into the pickup truck first, rolled down the window and waved, saying, "Uncle Dennis and Uncle Kenya, the farm will be in your hands from now on. Goodbye." As soon as the voice fell, the Dodge pickup truck took off, and under the reflection of the morning sun, it pulled out a puff of white smoke, and left the farm. "This kid seems to have grown a lot in the past year. It seems that we don't need to take care of him." In the back, Dennis held his wife's hand, and watched the car go away, with a warm expression on his face. It was evening, and Mike, who had been walking and stopping along the way, came to the forest road at the Texas border again. Driven by curiosity, he drove the car off the fork, and went to the former lair of the ogre. It seems that the matter of the ogre has also been deliberately suppressed. The densely packed scrapped vehicles on the open space here have all disappeared. Even the ogre's cabin, that was burned to ashes, has been specially covered with mud. No one can tell that all kinds of bad things have happened here. After more than 2 hours, Mike took advantage of the moonlight and rushed to the end of the forest road, the small hotel before. With the help of the moonlight, Mike saw that the traces of the small hotel at the corner had been cleaned up. What Jess and the other said before was true. Mike, who got back to the pickup truck, breathed a sigh of relief. The day before, he received a call from Jess and the other two. During the call, the three said that the local police officers had no intention of investigating the cannibal incident. Therefore, the three left the town smoothly yesterday. This way of handling things is not bad news for Mike now. Fighting and killing is still too dangerous for a 16-year-old boy. Why not enjoy a peaceful and beautiful life? Next, Mike, who adheres to the principle of not causing trouble, drove into Texas overnight, found a regular hotel along the way, checked in and rested. The next day, he slept until noon, had lunch in the hotel, and then staggered back to the town of Telford. "Hi, Mike. What do you think of my car?" Outside the Cooper family's yard, George was wiping a white RV. "Is this the car you bought?" Mike looked at the RV in front of him, which looked 60% to 70% new, and showed a surprised expression. RVs are giant vehicles. Unlike ordinary vehicles, they can meet people's needs for life and rest. Some RVs with luxurious configurations are even more comfortable than some residential houses. Therefore, the price of RVs is generally not low. Even second-hand RVs should be priced in tens of thousands. Check out the correct version on the 16 to 9 book forum. How is it? "This car is pretty good, isn't it?" Seeing Mike's surprised expression, George's desire to show off was satisfied. Then, he continued with a little pride, "This is a special car that I bought with my connections. It cost me 3,500 yuan. Do you want to go up and try it?" 3,500 yuan should be all the money George has, but this money is not enough to buy a RV, unless there is something wrong with this car. Conservatively speaking, George is likely to have been cheated. Mike, who came to this conclusion, wanted to help the other party check it. But before he could climb onto the RV, he was stopped by Grandma Connie, who came out after hearing the noise. Mike, what's in your car? After walking around the pickup truck, Connie pulled Mike and whispered, don't worry about George's broken car, because he is having a conflict with his family because of this. After giving Mike a knowing look, Connie pointed at the two large wooden barrels on the pickup truck and said in surprise, it must be filled with red wine. It was at this time when Connie interrupted that the rest of the Cooper family and Peggy came out. Missy jumped into Mike's arms with joy. These are the local specialties I brought back from the farm. The two wooden barrels contain homebrewed red wine. After comforting the little girl in his arms, Mike explained to the curious people, try the fruits, grown at home. Then, Mike shared the fruits he brought with everyone. Grandma Connie took a bite of the sweet apple, her eyes still fixed on the barrel of red wine, and suggested, how about we have a dinner party tonight? I happen to have some good beef, we can have a steak platter with red wine. This proposal was instantly unanimously affirmed by everyone. After that, Grandma Connie took Mary to discuss the menu for the evening. It is still some time before dinner, but if you are going to have a big meal, it is just the right time to start preparing now. Little George, come and help move the ingredients. Seeing that little George had finished eating the fruit and was about to wipe his IV, George called him loudly. There are abundant ingredients, and there are people to share the food. This leisurely afternoon, the Cooper family is full of a happy atmosphere. Chapter 273 Decision to drop out. Mike, are you sure this is how you open the barrel of red wine? In the living room, little George, holding a hammer in one hand and a special faucet in the other, asked unconfidently. Believe me, that's what the Kenyan uncle on the farm does, Mike instructed. First find a good position under the barrel, and then knock the switch in directly. Okay, this is what you said. I'm not responsible if there is a problem after that. Little George installed the switch for the barrel of red wine under the onlookers. Dong 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 with the sound of the hammer. It didn't take long for the special faucet to be wedged into the barrel. Oh, it's amazing. There's no leakage. Little George, who had finished the work, exclaimed. The faucet on the red wine barrel is a special switch that Mike brought from the farm. The inlet end adopts an expansion design, and there is a sealing ring at the interface. Under the double protection, the red wine in the barrel will naturally not leak out. Okay, little George, let's taste it first. George, who had prepared 3 high-foot glasses, urged on the side. He likes to drink beer, and he is not averse to red wine, not to mention that this is Mike's own red wine. Smelling the mellow wine aroma from the barrel, George could hardly hold back his saliva. As a laborer, I have the right to taste the first sip. The excited little George proudly defended his rights. Then, he took a cup from his father and went to the barrel. As the magenta wine flowed out, the aroma of the wine in the room became stronger, and the slightly fermented sour taste made people drool. Next, under the gaze of everyone, little George pretended to shake the red wine in the glass, and then imitated the actions of a successful person and elegantly took a sip of the wine in the goblet. TSK, it tastes really good. Little George, smacking his lips, seemed to enjoy the feeling now, and said intoxicatedly, it's a little sweet, and it tastes like grapes. Listening to your words is like listening to your words. Wine must taste like grapes. In the end, George, who couldn't bear his eldest son's hesitation, pushed him aside, and went over to help Mike and himself get half a glass of red wine. It is worth mentioning that the drinking age limit in each state is different. In some places, you have to be 22 years old to buy and drink wine. Of course, this specifically refers to the age when minors are not allowed to drink in public places. As for drinking at home, there are not so many regulations. Based on this situation, after Mike and George passed the 16th birthday ceremony, Grandma Connie and George and his wife relaxed their drinking rules a lot. Just like now. Mike, is the wine delicious? When Mike was tasting the wine, Missy came to him with a curious look. How should I put it? Mike organized his words and said, this is a red wine kept by the farm for drinking. The degree is not high, it is very similar to grape juice. Well, Mike didn't have the skills to taste red wine. Like George, he could only taste that the red wine tasted like grapes and was a little sweet. There should be some nectar or something in it. Do you want to try it? After ignoring the gaze of little Sheldon, Mike asked the two little girls in the room. When Mike and the other two were tasting the red wine, the three children were infected by the atmosphere and had some eager expressions on their faces. Compared with adults, children's curiosity is obviously stronger. Mike, after asking the two little girls for their opinions, went to the restaurant to get 2 straws and then handed them to them together with a red wine glass with only the bottom of the glass. It's a little astringent and there's a strange smell of fermented fruit. Peggy took a sip of the red wine, put down the straw, and gave the final evaluation. Compared to it, milk is more suitable for me. Missy on the other side was different. After she drank the rest of the red wine in one breath, she came to Mike with an empty wine glass and looked eagerly, as if she had not had enough. "You are still young, wait until you grow up." Feeling the stare of George, the old father, Mike rubbed Mrs. head and rejected the other party's request. "Wow, I can already smell the aroma of wine at this time." Grandma Connie, who had prepared a steak dinner, leaned out of the dining room and shouted with a smile, "It's time to eat. Come and try the special steak that Mary and I made. By the way, Mike, remember to bring that barrel of red wine in the dining room." The center of the dining table was filled with colorful salads made from various vegetables and fruits. In front of everyone's seats, there was an independent large dinner plate with fried bone-in steaks piled on it, and sweeteners such as ketchup, black pepper, and lemon slices were dotted on the side. Overall, this big meal looked very formal. Thank you Mike and Connie for the ingredients, and thank God for letting us get together and enjoy this delicious meal. Amen. After the prayer before the meal, Mary enthusiastically suggested, "Let's raise our glasses to celebrate this beautiful day today." Obviously, making such a big meal made Mary feel very accomplished, and the fact that the family could get together to enjoy the food made the housewife feel very happy. Cheers. With a crisp clinking of glasses, the adults held red wine, and the children held freshly squeezed juice. "Mike, did your trip go smoothly this time? How did you arrange the farm?" After tasting the red wine and eating a steak, the happy Connie started chatting. "It went smoothly, and the farm has almost been arranged." Mike smiled and told everyone about his trip. Of course, he skipped the matter of the cannibal and mainly talked about the farm reform. "It's amazing. The method of dividing small shares of profit is very smart." After listening to Mike's narration, Connie couldn't help but admire. With rich life experience, she could see at a glance what Mike meant by doing this. Using small shares of profit to attract talents and form a community of interests. Being able to make such a decision independently at the age of 16 at least proves that Mike is decisive and has a great talent in business. At the table, except for the 3 children such as Missy, who don't know much about business management, the other adults all recognized Mike's excellence. In comparison, George, who had used all his savings to buy a shabby RV a few days ago, was much worse in vision and pattern. "George, school will start in 2 days. You can't use that RV at all. Listen to me and buy it." George glanced at Mike, then turned his gaze to his eldest son and persuaded him. "For people who don't travel far, RVs are really useless and even a burden. That kind of big thing is very troublesome to maintain, and it is not suitable to be used as a commuter vehicle. Look at the correct version in 1619 book bar." However, George obviously couldn't accept his father's kindness. He stopped eating, lowered his head, and was silent for a long time, and then said sullenly, as if he had made up his mind, "I want to drop out of school. Anyway, with my grades, I can't get a diploma." Dropping out of school is not a trivial matter. Why? George, who didn't understand his eldest son's brain circuit, maintained a certain degree of rationality. After comforting his angry wife, he tried to ask in a gentle tone, "We were talking about the RV before. Why did he suddenly drop out of school? Isn't it obvious? I don't have the talent for learning. Even if I go to high school for 1 more year, no university will want me." George explained with some frustration. There was already a super genius like little Sheldon in the family, and now there are Mike and Peggy, who are also super geniuses. Compared with them, George, who can only pass by cheating, is under great pressure. Grades are not a problem. Don't forget that you are still a member of the football team. As long as you work hard, you have a great hope of finding a good university next year as a sports student. George patiently persuaded his eldest son. The main thing is that George is only 16 years old now. If he doesn't go to school and hangs around outside, he is likely to be led astray by bad youths in the outside world. Football team. Speaking of the school's football team, George seemed even more frustrated. You know my situation in the team. With the current rotation uniforms in the team, I won't even have many opportunities to play in the future. What's more, my athletic talent can't become a professional player at all. In that case, why should I waste my time? The Melford football team has undergone a major restructuring since it achieved good results at the beginning of the year. It's probably similar to the competition for a job. The capable ones are promoted and the mediocre ones are demoted. Although George likes rugby very much and has worked hard for this sport, he does lack some talent. His athletic ability is not as good as Sam's, his organizational ability is not as good as Aaron's, and his overall strength is far behind Mike's. In addition, after the Melford rugby team became famous, many talented newcomers joined this year. Under such circumstances, George has no competitiveness in the team. As the coach of the team, George naturally knows the situation of his eldest son. On the other hand, the reform of the team was first proposed by him as a coach. Therefore, George didn't know how to persuade his eldest son at this time. Sports competitions that require a lot of talent are also very cruel. George, I don't agree with you dropping out of school over there. Seeing that her husband couldn't speak, Mary immediately launched a second wave of attack. She stared at her eldest son with wide eyes and ordered, no matter what, sell your damn broken RV first, and then go to school, and study hard. Obviously, Mary had a lot of resentment towards her eldest son's RV. I have decided that, after I drop out of school, I will drive the RV to see the outside world. You know, I have never been out of Texas. Little George was not frightened by his mother's momentum, but calmly talked about his plan. I don't agree. Mary, with her eyes wide open, was so angry at her eldest son's words that she slammed the tablet on the table and scolded, "If you dare to leave this house, don't come back." However, the strong Mary did not succeed this time. Little George seemed to have entered a rebellious period. He stood up and stiffened his neck. "If you don't want to go back, then don't go back." After saying that, he turned around and left the house. After such a commotion, the warm atmosphere at the table was completely destroyed. "Mary, you are too much this time. Can't we discuss it properly?" Grandma Connie stared at her daughter and shook her head, then stood up and said, "I'll go see what's going on with little George. I hope he doesn't do anything stupid." After saying that, Grandma Connie also hurriedly chased after him. After the two left in succession, there was no dining atmosphere at the table. "Let's go out and take a look." Mike signaled Peggy and the other three children to go out with him. Obviously, Mary needed to calm down and also needed her husband's comfort. Mike led them away, leaving George and his wife alone to talk. Chapter 274 Firm Thoughts. "Hey, I haven't finished my apple pie yet. So why should I come out with you?" Little Sheldon, who was forcibly dragged by Missy to the yard, protested. "Aren't you worried about little George?" Missy glared at little Sheldon, expressing her dissatisfaction with his indifference to his family. "I think little George is right. He is wasting time staying in school." Little Sheldon, who couldn't get rid of the pull, commented on little George and asked again, "Can you let me go back? I haven't finished my apple pie yet." Obviously, compared with the trouble of little George, little Sheldon is more concerned about his delicious apple pie now. You know, with little Sheldon's picky taste, there are not many delicacies that can suit his taste. "Forget your apple pie." Missy pulled little Sheldon towards the RV and said, "Little George is breaking up with his family and needs our help." Okay. Little Sheldon, who couldn't get rid of it, could only accept his fate. Sure enough, one thing conquers another. Tiger, stick, chicken. Little Sheldon, who ranked first in his mother's eyes, was not very convincing in front of Missy. Outside the house, in the RV, George opened the backrest and was lying on it bored. Grandma Connie was sitting opposite him. Because of the age gap, the two seemed to have nothing to talk about. Seeing Mike and the three little guys coming over, Grandma Connie smiled and said, "Mike, talk to George. You young people should have common topics. Grandma won't be an eyesore here. I'll go get you some food." George left in a hurry before and only ate half of the meal. It was obviously impossible for him to be full. The most important thing is that George now looks emotionally stable, so Grandma Connie can leave without worry. Mike climbed up the RV and saw that George's eyes were confused. It is estimated that he has not thought about the next plan yet. Most of what he said before was angry. Considering his current situation, Mike has reason to suspect that he is playing badly. Then, Mike noticed that George's RV has a large interior space, but judging from the degree of wear and tear of the interior, it is indeed close to the edge of scrapping. The bright appearance of this car is probably due to a simple secondary paint treatment, commonly known as an embroidered pillow and a bag of bran. Yes, with a fund of more than 3,000 yuan, what kind of decent RV can you expect to buy? Overall, George didn't make a profit from buying this RV, but it wasn't a big loss either. It depends on the use value of this car in the future. George, Missy asked me to ask you, do you need any help? While Mike was observing the RV, Sheldon had already gone to George. No, don't bother me. Faced with such a blunt question, George was too lazy to answer. What's more, he didn't think Sheldon could help him. Very good. As if he had completed the task, Sheldon retreated to Missy and gave her a look. The arrogant look seemed to say, I have already provided help, but the other party didn't appreciate it. Where are you going? Have you planned the route for the self-driving tour? Ignoring Sheldon's poor performance, Mike sat opposite George. No, but I plan to go outside Texas. When talking about specific issues, George seemed to think about it. After a while, he sat up and asked, maybe you can give me some advice. Compared to others, Mike was the only one who had driven out of Texas by himself. Little George, who had decided to drop out of school, wanted to hear his advice. If you just want to go out and broaden your horizons, I think you can drive north and visit the nearby central states. Mike proposed a feasible plan. Texas, located in the southern state, is not far from several small states in the central region, and there is no desert in between. Little George has an RV and does not have to worry about accommodation. He can spend a few days to visit the central states. As long as he does not go too far, he can return in a short time if he regrets. Next, Little George also discussed with Mike about the specific route of the trip. It seems that you had a good chat. Grandma Connie, who came back with food, saw the scene in the car and smiled and greeted. Come and help. 2 fresh steaks, accompanied by a rich vegetable and fruit salad, were piled up into a small mountain on the tray. Seeing this, Little George quickly got up and set aside the small table in the car, then took the food and placed it on it. Ting ting, look what I brought. Grandma Connie, who had her hands free, took out 2 more bottles of beer from her body, as if performing magic. After handing the beer to George, Grandma Connie said seriously, George, I want to tell you that no matter what decision you make this time, Grandma supports you. I will help you with Mary, so you don't have to worry. After expressing her family-like concern, Grandma Connie turned to the 3 children in the RV and said, okay, children, I know you didn't eat enough before. Now let's go back and have a big meal. It seems that she is deliberately creating a chat atmosphere for George and Mike. And from her actions, it is not difficult to guess that Mary's mood in the house should have calmed down. Am I useless? After Grandma Connie and others left, George looked at Mike opposite him. His expression seemed very serious. A correct version of the book in 1619. His current mood seems to be in a delicate state. Little George, I know what you are thinking. Mike probably saw that the other party needed affirmation from others. After organizing his words, he said, everyone is good at different fields. Maybe you are not talented in learning, but I know you are good at communicating with people. For example, you were very successful in selling crystal balls door to door last Christmas. Besides, don't you realize that you are also very good at doing things? Herschel from the auto repair shop has praised you many times before. So, you don't have to feel guilty for not being able to compare with others in school. Thank you. After being enlightened, Little George felt much better and said with a smile, although I know you are deliberately comforting me, you also made me realize that I also have advantages. Once a person becomes depressed, it is easy to fall into endless self-denial and think that he is useless. This is a kind of mental internal consumption. At this time, a little bit of external affirmation is needed to wake up the other party, so that the person concerned can get rid of this bad mood. Okay, little George. Let's talk about the most critical issue. Are you sure you want to drop out of school? Mike brought the topic back and said sincerely, you know, at your age now, it will not be easier to gain a foothold in society than to study in school. You don't have to persuade me. I have seriously considered it. I'm not the material for studying. This kind of thing should be left to geniuses like you. And little George said with a relieved expression. As for me, instead of wasting time, it is better to enter society earlier, which can also reduce the burden on the family. Well, little George does not seem to be as heartless as he appears. He may have more issues to consider than others think. It can be said that he is already developing in the direction of man. Just at this time, a fat figure climbed into the RV. George eavesdropped outside for a while. After getting in the car, he looked at his eldest son and said with emotion, "You have your own ideas, which is good. So, when do you decide to leave?" Anyone who sees their children grow up should feel relieved. George is also happy to see his eldest son become better. Maybe in 2 days. I still need to prepare. After all, it was the first time for him to go on a long journey alone, and George was somewhat nervous. It's better to prepare more, George said, taking out a handful of money from his pocket and handing it to his eldest son. Here are about 500 yuan, all my private money, now they belong to you. Remember to spend it sparingly. Come back if you really can't. You know your mother's temper. What she said before was all angry words. Also, if you don't leave these days, you can go back home first. I'll talk to Mary. No, I'll live in the RV. George, who accepted his father's pocket money, seemed to have more confidence. Besides, even for the sake of face, he couldn't give in to his mother so quickly. It's up to you, but if you really don't want to live in the house, you can actually live in the basement. Looking at the environment in the RV, George took into account his eldest son's face and made a better suggestion. The basement of the Cooper family is actually a converted garage. In addition to the toy trains of little Sheldon, there are also many daily necessities. The sundries naturally included the cotton wool and bedding that the Cooper family had replaced. It was no problem to live there for a few days. Afterwards, George left the key to the basement and returned to the house. It turned out that sometimes, when father and son talk to each other, they don't necessarily have a lot to say. Chapter 275. The girl is crazy too. Little George, if you don't feel comfortable staying at night, you can stay at Grandma Connor's house. In the evening, after helping little George clean up a small nest in the basement, Mike reminded him before leaving. No problem, I know it myself. You should go back and rest soon. Little George waved his hand casually. He was not very worried about the accommodation problem now. It was summer now, and living in the basement was cooler. Moreover, it was the first time for George to get rid of his mother's control. Even if he lived in the basement, it made George feel novel. Okay, seeing that the other party was in a good mood, Mike could leave with peace of mind. Well, thank you today. Little George whispered to Mike's departing back. Little George is in a period of confusion at this stage. Having a friend like Mike who can both give advice and comfort people is really helpful to him. Hearing the thanks, Mike raised his arm and waved without turning his head, leaving a chic back. In the living room of Grandma Connor's house, Connie was sitting on the sofa with Peggy, as if waiting for someone. Seeing Mike coming back, Grandma Connie asked, "How is George? Has he really decided to leave home?" Obviously, although Grandma Connie said that she supported George in making any decision, she was still a little worried. This was also George's fault. His unreliable performance in the past really made it hard for people not to worry. Mike also told Grandma Connie everything about George's current situation and future plans. There was nothing to hide. From George's attitude, it was clear that his plan to run away from home this time was a done deal. Well, it's good to go out and suffer. Hardships can make people grow faster. After feeling George's determination this time, Grandma Connie frowned slightly, but still chose to respect his decision. Then, Grandma Connie stood up and said, "Today's activities are a bit heavy. I'll go to rest first. You should also rest early. It seems that George's matter still has a little impact on her." Otherwise, with Grandma Connor's personality, she usually won't go back to her room to rest before 12 o'clock in the evening. In the living room, Mike went to the bathroom to take a shower, and when he came out, he saw Peggy still sitting there. "Aren't you going to rest yet? Children who don't get enough sleep won't grow taller." Mike teased the little girl with a smile. Peggy had returned home this time, and she hadn't seen Mike for several days, so she had a lot to say to him. But now, she seemed to be in no mood at all. "I'll go to rest now." After glaring at Mike angrily, Peggy got up and walked towards her room. It can be said that she looks more and more like a normal child now. Looking at the little girl's temper, Mike smiled and shook his head, then went to the computer. Mike, who had more than 2 million yuan of liquid funds in his hands, decided to invest the money in the stock market as soon as possible and let them make money. As mentioned earlier, the stock market is the easiest time to make money. If you don't take advantage of this good opportunity to make more money, it would be a crime. Software industry, medical industry, food industry, retail industry. These are all industries that are sure to make money nowadays. If you just want to make quick money or big money, you still have to consider the appreciation cycle of these stocks. Just when Mike was choosing the right stock, the phone beside him rang. "Mike, did Collins go to see you?" After answering the phone, Sean's anxious voice came from the receiver. "What happened to Collins? Aren't you and your family on vacation at the beach?" Mike was a little confused by the question. "Collins didn't go on vacation with us, and our family vacation has ended today," Sean said anxiously. "You just need to know that Collins is missing now. The family can't contact her, so I want to ask you, do you know where she is?" In summary, Sean's family didn't see Collins when they came back from vacation today, and they couldn't contact each other so late. In this situation, Sean immediately thought of Mike. "Don't worry, I'll call Collins and see." Mike thought a lot about the girl's disappearance in an instant. He had been in contact with the girl by phone before, and she had asked about his schedule not long ago. Therefore, Collins was also aware of Mike's return to the town of Telford today. In addition, the girl collected his posters. After going through all these things, Mike found that Collins' disappearance might really be related to him. With mixed feelings, Mike called Collins. "Hello, Mike, what's the matter?" After the phone rang several times, Collins' voice came from the receiver. "A correct version of the book in 1619. Very good." The call was connected. God knows how anxious Mike was in these few seconds. But now it's good. At least it can be confirmed that Collins is not in danger. "Collins, where are you now?" Mike suppressed other doubts and asked the most concerned question. Me? I'm at home now. What's wrong?" Collins' answer revealed a guilty taste. "It's okay." Listening to the background noises such as the engine and wind on the phone, Mike was silent for a long time before asking, "Collins, do you have anything to say to me now?" It was obvious that the girl lied. She was very likely on her way to find Mike. I don't know how to describe it. Collins, who was driving the night car, felt that he might be crazy. Just because of unrequited love, he was going to meet the other party regardless of anything. But the time he chose was very bad. Blown by the night wind, the girl's overheated head calmed down. She knew that it was difficult to explain such an outrageous thing to Mike, the real owner. Even if she explained it, she would probably be regarded as lunatic by the other party. So, Collins changed his tone and said to the phone, "I want to say that it's getting late, so I'll hang up first." The girl who hung up the phone was a little tearful. She was about to enter the town of Telford. If she returned by the original route, she would have to drive more than 2 hours of night car. Collins left at dinner time. It takes about 2 hours from here to the town of Deford. If the road conditions and visibility are not good, it will take longer. No matter what, I'll die in the end. Collins decided to meet Mike, even if he thought she was crazy. She needed an answer to make her unrequited love have a result. With an obsession, Collins accelerated the car and rushed to the town of Deford. On the other side, Mike, sitting in front of the computer, was thinking about a question. Is my charm so great? He is now sure that Collins drove a night car to find him because he was fascinated by him. It's really crazy. Forget it. It's useless to think so much now. The most urgent thing is to call Zio Zarkson's home first and report Collins' safety. After the call was connected, Mike immediately explained his sister's situation to Xiaoxian. I knew it would be like this. Little Scene on the other end of the phone didn't seem surprised after knowing the news about his sister. He then teased, I'll keep this a secret for you for now. Remember to send my sister back after the tryst. What the hell is going on? Where was the tryst? Why didn't I know about it? Mike was too tired to complain about the actions of Little Scene and his brother. After promising to help Little Scene take care of his sister, he hung up the phone. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.